We are here, you are there, with Allan Beswick.
Good evening. How are you?
BBC Radio Manchester.
I'm Allan Beswick. This is the Allan Beswick Late Night Phone-In. We're here until 1 o'clock in the morning, so that's very nearly 3 hours, about 40 seconds thereof. Thereof, not thereof. Behave. You started already. 0800 218 2255 is a telephone number. That's the only way you can take part in the programme, but you can listen to it via a whole variety of methods these days, including the much vaunted BBC Sound. Is that a safe way of saying it? I think it is. Any road up. If you want to join us, you can. The number I say again is 0800 218 2255, and you just pick up your phone and talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. A bit like David Tennant, who didn't pick up the phone, but I suppose during the course of an interview, he said that the ludicrous ticket prices are killing the theatre. He may be right. Apparently he didn't mention what contribution overpaid actors adds to the theatre bill. Presumably he's one of those people who thinks a taxpayer should make a contribution to the fun of the fancy pants middle classes out for a pretentious jolly. It's been suggested that if the Rwanda plan gets blocked by the European Court of Human Rights, the government will try to leave said organisation and thus weaken the basic rights of every man, woman and child in the UK. What could possibly go wrong? And as the price of food escalates, the sales of pretend meat are plummeting, which is odd because it's always been ludicrously expensive anyway, but it's simultaneously vile and stupid. Vile because I've tasted it, it's horrible. And stupid because, well, if you want to be a vegan, get on with it. Why would you want to be a vegan and at the same time pretend that you're not a vegan by eating something that looks like meat? When in fact, it's more like well-rotted flesh. Oh, come on. Have you ever smelt vegan cheese? Dear God, it's like a fart on a slab. And there was brilliant photography, or a brilliant photograph anyway, in the papers yesterday. Concorde, that marvellous plane, being carried on a barge along the Hudson River in New York. Now, I never flew on Concorde. It was really, it was, wasn't it? It was just for the rich, and I've never been amongst that lot. But it did very occasionally, the BA put it on the shuttle between Manchester and Heathrow. In the days when you could walk up to the airport, pay your fare and get on the plane. You can't do that anymore for reasons of security and all the rest of the blather. But they used to have a guarantee that if the plane was full, then they'd add another plane. So if they had one more passenger, that person would get a plane on their own. And occasionally, as I say, they put it's hard to believe, I know, but they put Concorde on the shuttle. Presumably they had to get it from A to B, and they might as well have somebody sat on giving them money. Anyway, years ago, I was in the garden in Atherton, and it flew low over our garden. So much so, it looked like you could reach up and touch it. You couldn't, of course, but it looked like that. It was an amazing aircraft, let's be fair. And then, as we come to terms with the publication of the details of serving police officers in Northern Ireland, I mean, we come to terms with it fairly easily, but those guys, men and women, they well, less easily. Their lives are always on the line, but even more so now. But we simultaneously learned that earlier this year, Cumbria Police managed to publish the names and wages of their coppers. It's a perfect example of some clown in an office somewhere giving his or her employer the finger. But instead of pointing it upwards, as I do sometimes, presses it downwards on a computer keyboard, causing mayhem. I wonder where the next finger of suspicion will point. The disappointment in her voice. But I could hear it. I mean, maybe there is a soupçon of paranoia in me. I've not noticed it before, but it may well be there. And to what do I refer? Well, today, out of duty of sorts, I watched the semi-final, was it? Yeah, no, the quarter-final of the Lionesses playing against another team. I think it was Colombia. My attention span stayed with me all the way through, but didn't last long afterwards. But it was quite pleasant. I quite like women's football, although there was a little bit of arguing with the referee, which is what really annoys me about men's football, and one of the reasons I dislike it intensely. Well, just one of the reasons. There are many others. And anyway, I watched it, and you know, it was all right. It was an interesting game, if you like that sort of thing. And so I watched that, and then I went off and made myself a very nice cup of coffee and got a dish of ice cream, as one does, and snuggled down to watch Lee versus Hull. Or was it Hull KR versus Lee? Who knows? In the Rugby League final, the Challenge Cup as it's called. And that was a very entertaining game. Very entertaining indeed, and nip and tuck right till the very end. And so I'd spent the whole day, to all intents and purposes, watching sport. And my wife said, "You're just like any other bloke, all day watching sport." And as I say, there was some difficulty in hiding the vitriol in her voice. And I can't tell you how ashamed I felt. I've been accused of many things, but being just another bloke is low on the ones I aim for, but such is life. 0800 218 2255. If you watch either of those games and you wish for to speak of it, feel free. Obviously, if you're in Lee, you won't have a prayer because you'll be out enjoying yourself in the happiness of the occasion. I wonder if I rather hope that the local authority put on one of them rooftop, open top bus tours, because if they do, the council that'll be paying for it will be Wigan Metropolitan Borough Council. So Wigan Council will be paying for the celebrations of Lee winning the Challenge Cup. And there is a certain irony in that even though I don't live around there anymore, I still find entertaining. Perhaps there's bitterness in my soul after all. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, you can. Pick up your phone, have your say, talk about absolutely anything. As I say, if you watch either of those games, feel free to comment thereupon, but do bear in mind that you won't get much response from me because I don't really understand the goings-on of the sport properly. Anyway, let's get going. How do, Des?
How do, Alan? Nice to hear your voice still on the radio. I hope you carry on being on the radio.
Well, that seems unlikely. I'll be no longer on the radio at some point this year, but what would you like to talk about, Des?
Well, listen, you've been saying that for quite some time now.
I know, it keeps happening.
You'll be on the radio for some time, but you're still there.
I am indeed still there, but I assure you, whatever happens, I will not be here next year. That's
really?
for certain. Yeah.
Are you taking retirement then, are you?
Well, things are changing, and I don't want to change with them. Anyway, what do you want to come on about, Des? What did you ring for?
Well, first of all, I'd like the introduction to your show when it first comes on the hour at 10 o'clock, was it? What a fantastic introduction. It was just fucking...
Please.
It was just great. It was so funny.
Well, so good. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I did. And you know what? I'm getting to a certain age now that I can't remember what it was that I really wanted to talk to you about. So I'll have to go.
All right. Well, good to talk to you anyway, Des. Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. And I know the feeling he's having entirely. We've all done it. Well, perhaps we haven't, but our age group has. You go upstairs and can't remember what you went upstairs for, and get back downstairs and realise it was a pee and have to go back up again. But I'm fortunate now. I have a downstairs loo, so it saves that problem. I know you don't care, but I thought I'd tell you anyway. How do Arnold?
How many organs in the body are there? Oh, there's the skin, the kidneys, a lot of organs. How many are there? How many bones? There's about 209 bones, isn't there, Alan? 209 bones in them.
I think there are quite a lot. I can't remember how many. I haven't counted them, and there is an issue over how many bones in the skull, because some people think it's one and others say it's 4.
Yeah,
and then is every tooth a bone? I don't know. So it just gets complicated and not worth the hassle.
Well, the ear is made up of 3 bones, isn't it? The ear, the hammer, ambulance, stirrup.
Right, maybe.
How's your eyesight, Alan, in your mature age? How's your eyesight doing? You have to wear glasses?
I do.
Yeah. When did you start wearing them? My dad used to wear them, and my mum. My mum wore them especially for watching telly, I couldn't believe that. My mum Angela, she wore telly. How's your hearing on you have tinnitus?
No, I don't. I don't have tinnitus. I do not.
Yeah, I got a joke for you. Well, I feel sorry for people with disabilities, like limbs or organs or organ failure. Can lead into a hospital placement. I went to a doctor's last week. He was just asked me for a blood pressure, a blood test, and a blood test can show up all sorts, like diabetes or high cholesterol. My dad had that, Alan, high cholesterol through bacon fat. My mum was always in doctors, down-old doctors, where Lucy Mycock come from up in our reports. Shame about Tony Morris, a co-presenter on Grand Report. Remember him, Alan? Tony Morris?
I do, yes. I worked with him at Radio Manchester.
Yeah. Well, Lucy was crying her eyes. I felt sorry for her. I know her family, but he was across from us. Paul O'Grady, in his finer day. Shame he died, wasn't it, Alan, Paul O'Grady?
Well, I mean, it is a shame, but, in the end, everybody dies.
Yeah. What's the best religion you can follow? Church of England or Catholic or Jehovah's Witness?
I don't have any religion, so they're all equal in value to me.
What would you vote for if you vote for anyone? Or your preference?
Well, I don't know that one gets a vote for religion, but...
No, for politics.
Well, I never discuss what my politics are, and there are more colours than the two you've just said.
I'm aware of that. I've been aware of that all the time. So I wish you well in your retirement anyway.
Okay, well, thank you. We don't know when it's coming, but it'll come eventually. Good to talk to you, Arnold. 0800 218 2255. You've got a gist of how the programme works now, or at least I hope you have. And if you wish to comment on anything at all, then you're more than welcome. You don't have to come on and talk about me, although, like any other radio presenter or person in the public eye, there's nothing pleases me more. Jerry Raff, Baker Street. I've forgotten the number. No, was it 22B? Or was it 221B? I know it was upstairs. Sherlock Holmes, you know what I'm on about. Anyway, I can't remember. How do Sean?
Evening, Alan. How you doing?
Awfully well, thank you.
Yeah, did you see the rugby today? Men and women's rugby? The final?
I did. But I didn't see the women's one, but I didn't see the women's. Yeah. I saw the men's.
Did you see the women's final, England and Colombia?
Well, that wasn't the final, but I saw the football, yes.
Yeah, Colombia, when Colombia scored, I got really anxious because I thought, right, this is it. But Lauren Hemp scored, and then Ruth scored at the end, and then they won. So I was pretty proud of them for that. Because they actually come back and they did. I didn't think they were going to win it at first.
Yeah, it was a bit dodgy, wasn't it?
Well, Colombia were pressing them really high, and they weren't looking very happy at first, and then they got back into it. But I thought when Colombia...
Come on.
I thought when Colombia scored, I thought to myself, this can't be the end of England's tournament. They can't end like this. They can't go home yet. They're not ready.
It's not like that, though, is it? I mean, we can't go home yet. I'm sure the Colombians were saying the same thing.
I actually punched my wall when Colombia scored. I thought, no, I'm not having this.
Right.
I bet the big man was thinking, what are we doing? Letting the goal in so early.
Well, they make an error. I'm going to have to stop you because there are people swearing in the background, Sean, but thank you anyway. Have a good night. How do Stephen?
Oh, good evening, Alan. Hi.
Good evening.
Yes, on a good point before about memory. Yeah, I thought it was just me, and my age. But going upstairs, and you've gone up to get something, and you forgot what you've gone upstairs for, so you have to sit on the bed to kind of capture your memory. And it's quite a natural phenomenon, doesn't it, at a certain age?
I think it comes to us all in the end, I guess.
I thought it was something to do with receptive levels, if you go to a certain height, your memory goes skew with, and I thought our brain's like a radio signal, and I'm thinking, oops, I've got my wires crossed here somewhere, but it's quite a natural phenomenon, that, isn't it? And it seems to, at that level, you seem to forget, especially when you're in your home, and I've got a habit of losing my car keys, which I do panic about. But I was going to say, we don't hear much of terrorism anymore, do we? Thank God.
Well, we do.
But is it sort of like, I remember we used to have terrorist effects in our country, and we had incidents, that could have led to terror, but I think with security now stepped up.
Well, we do have a lot of security now, and as incidents fade into the memory, the security level reduces. But just recently in Northern Ireland, which is part of the UK, of course, just recently after the shooting of a police officer, the level went from the next highest to the very highest, critical. Indeed, the threat level in Northern Ireland presently is that an incident will happen. That's the threat level. So terrorism hasn't gone away.
Yeah, I do remember when back in 2014 I was in Northern Ireland, and the amount of armoured car presence there, I think they were old army vehicles that were Land Rovers, and they've got police on them now. And the police presence, because it was a march, and unbelievable armed police, everywhere, incredible, and people just standing around, and I was thinking, they looked formidable, in case there was a big massive kick-off. And we got stuck in Belfast, so I was speaking to one of the Garda police, and I said to him, sorry, not the Garda, because that's south, sorry, but he said, follow my finger, and he said, I'll point you a way out of here. I said, does this common practice here? He said, generally, yes. So we have to be on high alert, because we never know when it's going to kick off. So I said,
it hasn't gone away in Northern Ireland, not even nearly. I mean, it is considerably less noticeable, but people think because it's, by comparison, quiet and not getting reported as much, that terrorism in Northern Ireland has ended. It hasn't.
I tell you what I've noticed, though, Alan. I mean, we travel over to Southern Ireland quite a lot, from Holyhead to Dublin, which is a relatively short distance, 3 hours, 15 minutes. It's a nice crossing, depending on the weather, And the thing is, the security levels. Now, I remember when, as I say, we were going back over in Ireland in 2014 onwards, just before we come out of Brexit, and you could just get on the car at Dublin and drive straight through, But the security wasn't as intense as it is now. I mean, you've got to go through customs first now, and then you've got to go and produce your identity, your passport or your driving licence. But they won't let you through if you've got no identity. They'll send you back. On one occasion...
But that's not to do with terrorism. That's got to do with the fact that we're now entering... we're entering an area that is no longer... of which we are no longer a partner, because Dublin, of course, is in the Republic of Ireland, and that's still in the EU, and we are not. So we're crossing the border into the EU.
Yeah, and it's noticeable now when you we lived in Ireland, Killashandra, and it was nice. It was County Cavan, and the people were very, very friendly, lovely people. And one thing we were told not to talk about politics and religion, so that went out through the window. But apart from that, I loved it over there, but that's before David Cameron threw the gauntlet on the floor to cast votes for Brexit. I've got mixed views about that, to be honest with you now. I often wonder about that. Whether we should have stayed in, I don't know. It's a difficult question.
Did you vote in the referendum?
Well, no, I didn't, because when I was over in Ireland, all this was going on, you know, and I didn't think that, you know, Great Britain would come out, you know, as such. And they did, apart from Southern Ireland. And we noticed a few marked changes, you know, people's attitude changed, and ironic, you know. But I don't know. I don't know what would have happened if we'd have stayed in, and what would have been presently what would have been like today economically and all that. Maybe better, I don't know, but makes you wonder.
Well, that is the thing, isn't it? We only ever get what happens. We don't get what might have happened. We can only guess at that, and that's the position we're in here. Had we stayed in, we could have been 5 times worse off. We could have been 5 times better. It could have been unnoticeable difference between the two. Who knows? We'll never know.
You mentioned something interesting. One more thing, Alan, was the Court of Human Rights. That was an interesting topic. Yeah. Yeah. I think that, 'cause I remember, was it Boris Johnson said that we want all our laws back, and one thing and another, and probably this constitutes for one of them, isn't it? That we maybe not part of the you know, European Court of Human Rights, and you know, maybe that may pose some problems in this country. I don't know. You know.
Well, it's the. First of all, the European Court of Human Rights isn't part of the EU, so we're a signatory to the European Court of Human Rights, and therefore have to obey its judgments in the event that things go there. And we've had the situation recently where our government has been found to be behaving or attempting to behave unlawfully.
Yeah, I'd sort of agree with that, Alan. Yes, and taking the law into their own. Yes, yeah, makes you wonder, doesn't it? Which way you? I mean, I know a lot of people have gone to courts of human rights over family issues, and that's another subject. And you know, some of them have come out on top, you know, and successful, but others have failed dismally, you know. But that's where it goes. It's a toss of a coin, isn't it? Really, within law. You know, I mean, I've been through that process and seen the other side of it, Alan, but I won't go into details. Yeah, times are changing, aren't they?
That is always the case. Times are always changing. Good to hear from you. Have a good night, Stephen. How do Martin?
Good evening, Alan. Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
I'll just speak on that one. I'd just like to comment on the Irish situation that the gentleman before the caller just before said, because you've got, last time I went to Southern Ireland was 1996 with a friend of mine who died in 1999. He was from Irish parents. He wasn't born in Ireland. He was born in Croydon, London. And he said to me, do you want to go to Northern Ireland? Do you want to cross the border from Southern Ireland to Northern? I said no. It was just something in my head thought, no, it might be a lovely place, might be lovely, but I don't want to go. That was just something in my mentality about that.
Well, that's your choice, but I can tell you I've been to the Republic a number of times, and it's a fabulous place.
Yeah, but I just thought, he'd been there loads of times, because his parents were Irish, he wasn't born in London, I said, no, I just thought, well, I'll leave that one out, and I'll stay in Dublin. Like the gentleman said before, the caller before said that all he had to do is...
Hang on. Did you just say, I'll leave that one out and stay in Dublin?
Oh, I was in Dublin at the time. I did more than Dublin, not just Dublin. But
no, but I may have misheard you, but I think earlier you said, your friend said to you, do you want to go to Ireland? And you said no, and you were in Dublin.
You were
in Ireland.
Northern Ireland, I meant. So I might have
Right, okay. Right, well, why would you not want to go to Northern Ireland?
Because of the troubles. I'm going back to 1996 when this just was. But I just thought, no, I prefer to stay in Southern Ireland when we're staying in Swords near Dublin. And the gentleman caller before said he went from Holyhead to Dunleary. I did exactly the same trip on the ferry to get there.
Yeah, no, that's how you go, yeah.
I didn't go back.
I think the ferry no longer takes you to Dunleary. I've not been on it recently, but I think the ferry now takes you into the heart of Dublin rather than to Dunleary.
Right, I went to Dunleary and then you got on the DRAT Dublin
That's right, you got on the DART, it was called, wasn't it? You got on that and that got you through. Anyway, good to hear from you. Cheers, Martin. We seem to have found Sean again. Hello again, Sean.
Hello, Alan.
You need to turn your radio off, Sean.
Oh, sorry about that.
Okay.
I was talking to you before, and someone was swearing in the background. Sorry about that. That wasn't me.
Indeed, you weren't in the background. What would you like to talk about, Sean?
I want to talk about mental health issues.
Okay.
So, people get mental health, don't they, from staying inside all day and not bothering to go out. So, like, if it gets hot and people don't drink enough water, they get headaches and they call strokes or seizures, and they could get mental health issues because they don't leave the house for a long time. And it's horrible that, because people don't need it, do they?
They don't need it, that's for sure, but some of the things you've just said are part of or some of the symptoms that could be used to diagnose a mental health issue, but they're not.
Yeah.
Not every person suffering from a mental health problem has the symptoms that you described.
All right. What causes mental health issues then?
If I knew the answer to that, I'd be a millionaire. There are many causes of mental health issues. Some of them are what you might call familial, the family you were in, the lifestyle you lead, your environment around you. Some of it is caused by habitual use of drugs and alcohol can lead to mental health issues. Trauma can lead to mental health issues. There are all sorts of causes, and of course, a person can be born with a set of a personality that has within it a mental health issue anyway. So some of it could be from the very beginning, and some of it could have been acquired during the course of a life.
Like, if someone's family member dies, someone can start using drugs, and then that's how they get mental health problems, because they think that's how they solve problems, by using drugs, because they think that's going to bring their loved ones back, and it isn't. That's just causing them self-pain.
Well, people could get a mental health problem following a death of someone you're close to, and it's not uncommon for a person in that position to become quite depressed. It's called, in very loose terms, it's called reactive depression, becoming depressed as a result of something that has happened. But that in most people alleviates without need of intervention. Not in everybody, but in lots of people it does. But because being depressed or sad when somebody dies is perfectly natural. It's how long it lasts after that. And yes, if a person turns to drugs or alcohol to ease their pain, then that could move on to a more serious issue.
Can I just say, I love the weekends when at 10 o'clock, because I love listening to your show, speaking to you, because I think you're an amazing person.
Well, that's kind of Martin. Thank you very much, Sean. Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. If you wish to join us, you can. It's 25, very nearly 25 to 11. We're here right through until 1. How do, Peter?
How do, amazing Beswick? How are you?
I don't know, but I'm okay.
Excellent. That guy was talking about Southern Ireland. It actually isn't Southern Ireland, is it? It's the Republic of Ireland, because parts of Southern Ireland, as in his the way he described it, are actually further north than Northern Ireland, aren't they?
Indeed, yes, but the purpose of words is to convey something, and we all knew what he was talking about.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that more
But
important.
I've driven actually from Northern Ireland to the Republic of Ireland, and the scenery doesn't change an awful lot. And there wasn't even a border control when I was there. You could just drive from one to the other seamlessly. Is that still the case?
I think in simple terms, yes, because the border is not, to all intents and purposes, the border is not policed.
No. Yeah.
But if you arrive by ferry, then that's a slightly different matter.
Well, I was obviously took the car on the ferry from, I think it's Cairn Ryan in Scotland to Larne, and then I drove up the north coast, crossed into Donegal, and then came back into Northern Ireland, and then drove south towards Dublin. So, and I don't recall any border patrols or anything at that time.
No, there wasn't, and as far as I'm aware, there still isn't.
That's still the case, is it? Yeah.
But there are issues, well, apart from people just driving back and to. I mean, some people work on the other side of the border. But apart from individuals just driving their vehicles, there are issues related to trade which have still not been resolved.
Well, you get a lot of people nipping over the border to buy petrol, don't you? Because it used to be cheaper on the Republic side, but I'm not sure it is.
I believe that does happen.
Yeah,
I believe that does happen.
But it happens here. If you go 8 miles up the road, it's 87 pence a gallon cheaper than it is here. So, you know. Anyway. What main reason I've called tonight is about the water companies of Britain. How much would it cost to go back and nationalise them, do you think?
It depends
is it worth
on
that? Yep.
It depends on how it was done. Our government is unlikely to just take them over, because that's not how our governments traditionally work.
No.
So the way it would probably be done is they would have to buy a controlling interest in all of the water companies individually. So they have to buy.
It was the Conservative government that brought about the various different companies that exist now, wasn't it? It was their policy
that's almost accurate. It was certainly privatised by the Conservative government at the time, but of course some of the companies are no longer in the hands that they were in at the moment of privatisation, and some of the companies, like North West Water, for example, is part of a bigger company than just North West Water. So to renationalise
well, they're United Utilities now, aren't they?
You make the point for me by using the name, and I was trying not to.
Oh, sorry.
I was trying to keep it more generic, because it applies.
North West Water then. Sorry, I didn't say I wouldn't mention the companies. I do apologise.
Okay. Doesn't matter. The bottom line is that for the government to renationalise it, they would have to pass legislation to take control of those companies, and if they didn't buy them on the open market or what have you, then there would be multi-million, possibly even multi-billion pound court cases trying to address it, so it would not be cheap.
So it's that versus how much these companies are costing individuals as opposed to what they may have cost if we would have left things as they were, but we can't.
Well, we don't know. The problem is we don't know. One of the things that we never find out and can't find out is what if. I mean, the truth is that those companies are now worth on the open market, if you like, considerably more than they were when they took over. And the water part of the companies, or whatever company it is, even if they're foreign owned, the water part is controlled by British legislation, so they have to obey the British legislation, which includes those rules and regulations laid down by Ofwat. So they have to meet certain criteria. Now, some would say that the criteria is not rigid enough, but that's an issue for another occasion.
And they can be fined by Ofwat, as indeed they have been recently.
They frequently are.
For sewage and all the rest of it, yeah. And
the great complaint is that the fines it is alleged, are seen by the companies as just a trading expense. So if you are required to spend £5 billion to avoid a fine, and the fine is 200 quid, it's a massive fine, but you're still £4,800,000,000 in front.
There was one company in the southwest some years ago, I remember, polluted water and was fined, but the people who paid the fine weren't them, they were the company that took over after them, which was, I thought, very unfair, because they hadn't caused the problem, had they?
Well, whether they caused the problem or not is irrelevant. They took over the trading entity, and the trading entity, as well as having assets, had liabilities, and the liability was the fine.
But geographically, there are times of the year when certain regions are in drought and other regions aren't. Is the ability of a company from one region to help a company from another region by piping water across the boundary that they're responsible for, or not?
No is the answer. There are certain areas where that would be possible, but there isn't. It's not like electricity and gas. There isn't a universal pipe structure. I don't know whether you remember when before privatisation in the 70s, I think it was, there was an extraordinary doubt. And there was the government appointed a water minister, and the
Dennis
water
Howell,
minister.
I think he was called, wasn't he?
He was called. I can't remember his name. I'm not going to say yes.
Dennis Howell, I think it was.
I think you're right. Anyway, he was a Birmingham MP, and he announced that one of the things they were going to do was they're going to lay a dirty, great big pipeline down the outside lane of the motorway to convey water from one place to another. And it sounds daft, but at that time, for example, in Yorkshire, where they had a massive... Now, I can't remember whether... Yeah, they had a massive drought, and there were tankers 24 hours a day, motor lorry tankers driving from a reservoir elsewhere to Yorkshire and putting water into their system because they were so short. And they appointed Howell, as you rightly say, to be the Minister for Drought, and within days it started to rain.
I know. He didn't last long, did he? He absolutely
Well, he didn't need to. He didn't need to. Exactly. Some years later he was made the Minister for Snow. And some years after that, as a Birmingham MP, he said some very, very rude things about Manchester, because Manchester was bidding for the Commonwealth Games, as also was Birmingham. And he said some appalling things about Manchester. So he can rot in hell for all I care.
Absolutely. But what about the gas and electricity companies? I sat down on Friday because I got this enormous bill and I thought, oh, this is ridiculous. And I just rang up 6 of them, the big 6 or whatever, to compare their rates. And I wrote them all down, and one of them refused to give me the rates. I won't say which one, but I had this big argument. They wanted to know the ins and outs of my backyard, but they wouldn't tell me what the rates were. Under the law, don't they have to tell you if you're trying to compare one company with another? Aren't they obliged to tell you what the tariffs are for this region?
I don't think they do.
Aren't they? Oh, that's a shame. Because all the other 5 were okay, and I wrote them all down, and one was slightly cheaper, but all the others were more or less exactly the same, because they are at the moment, aren't they? Because most of them have to adhere to this government cap.
Well, they don't have to adhere to the government
Really?
cap. They are limited by the government cap.
Right. So they could undercut that if they want to.
They could if they wished, yes. But why would they?
Yeah. Well, exactly.
Because
but
they're not in competition.
The one who wouldn't speak to me, I rang them back again, and the guy apologised and said, I should give you those rates. Here they are. And guess what? They were the highest. So that's why, they don't like, for some reason, they don't like you to compare one with another, do they?
I've no idea.
It isn't quite easy, because in the old days they all used to have little incentives. Now it's a bit more straightforward, because you tend to get the standing charge rates for gas and electricity, you get the unit rates, so it's quite easy to compare one with another on a spreadsheet. I know you like your spreadsheets, don't you, Alan?
I don't know where you've got that idea. I don't know how much to do with spreadsheets.
Oh, don't you? I thought you liked comparing one with another. Maybe do you write them down then, or don't you bother?
I don't bother very often.
All right. But with all these companies going bust, I tend to want to stick with the bigger ones because hopefully they won't. But even one of the big ones went bust a few years ago, didn't it? So
well,
and then they have to find a company of last resort or something, isn't it now?
Yep. And it used to be the rule that the company that takes over your account after your account holder, if you like, has gone bust, it used to be that they have to take it over at the rate you were contracted to pay.
And that's what you did when your company went bust, wasn't it?
I did. That isn't the case any longer.
I know. Tell me about it.
I just did. Have a good night, Peter. How do Michelle?
Hi there, Alan.
Hi.
You were saying about when you got the stairs, you forget what you went up there and all that sort of stuff. Sometimes some people forget their own kids' names and they call all their kids all the names to get the right one.
Blimey.
Like, you've got 4 kids, you say for instance, your kid's called Joe, you call him Dave, Alan, whatever, and then you finally get Joe. You can finally get the right one to the right name. I've done that with my 4 kids.
That must be a bit embarrassing. I used to work on the buses with a lad that gave his children numbers. He used to say number 1 son and number 3 son. And I found that, even though it wasn't my family, I found that less than appealing.
It's quite annoying because I've only got 1 daughter and 3 boys, and she gets called their names as well. But I've done that with my dogs as well, and I'm wondering why my dog don't come to me. Well, his name's Raven, not Harley. Yeah, that's good. Oh gosh! And I've gone to the washing machine. I thought I turned it on, so I thought I'll go back. It should be done by now. I'll go back and turned it on. So I have to wait another 2 hours to get it done.
Yeah.
So, and I'm only 57. So God help me when I get to your age.
Well, indeed. When I got to 40, my dad said to me, live on the radio, the only time he was ever on the radio, he said, because my producer organised celebrating my birthday, for which she will never be forgiven. Anyway, my dad said, well, they tell you life begins at 40. Don't believe a word of it. It's all downhill from here. Which cheered me up no end.
Well, that's it. And then when you're a kid, you think, I can't wait to be an adult, grow up and everything else. Yeah, you grow up, and then you end up shrinking. What's that all about?
I don't know. It's due any day now, but I'm still the same height I was some years ago. But who knows? I may well be stooping before too long. Good to hear from you, Michelle. You've planned out my future rather uncomfortably. How do Ted?
All right, Alan. Just to say, you know, tonight, Alan, there's a meteor shower tonight.
So I believe.
And how does that happen?
I don't really understand the question. It's loads of bits of rock in space arriving as part of its journey elsewhere, arriving in the atmosphere of Earth, and the lumps of rock, as they travel through the atmosphere, burn up, catch fire for want of a better expression, and we see them streaking across the sky like a light.
Now that happens every year.
It happens every night. It's just the size of the shower. Yeah, well, every night at least one little bit of space dust enters the atmosphere, which is why any clear night you've got a good chance, if you spend enough time looking, to see a shooting star, which is more or less what that is.
Well, they said tonight there's going to be quite a few, so people...
Yeah, tonight they're aware of... Yeah, there's going to be lots and lots of them. I've forgotten how many they said, but it's a very large number.
Do you believe? You don't believe in other worlds, do you?
I do believe. Well, I believe in other worlds. I don't. I have never witnessed any evidence of there being life on other planets, but it can't be rejected by me because there are so many other planets, statistically it's likely.
But on Mars, they found objects that look like pyramids and things like that that are on Earth.
Well, I mean, you say it, and I'm not going to say you're wrong, but I've not heard of any created structure being found on Mars. There are structures caused by all sorts of natural phenomenon, but I'm not aware of there being any created structure that's been built by a creature.
And on the moon, there's like they look like like the pyramids have the big long pointy things. Like there's one in America, in Washington.
A pyramid in Washington.
Cleopatra's needle.
Well, Cleopatra's needle is on the banks of the Thames in London, but there is a needle structure in Washington, but both of those were created by man.
And they found them on the moon, Alan.
And they didn't find either of those on the moon.
No, they look like them.
Well, there may well be structures like that, in other words, bits of rock sticking up, but none of those, as far as we're aware, have been created by creatures. They've just been created by the environment. Well, just like there will be valleys and mountains, as you might describe them, rather like Ben Nevis, which wasn't created by man, but if someone was looking at Earth, they'd say, "Oh, look, there's a mountain. We've got one of them. There must be people." And that wouldn't be evidence of people. That would be evidence of erosion and everything else that happens.
Well, the moon, Alan, was a sun at one time.
No, it wasn't. The moon was never of itself a sun.
It went out, Alan. It was a sun at one time.
The moon of itself was never a sun, but it may well have been that the debris that came together to form the moon, some of that debris could have been from the explosion of a star.
Well, when the moon was a sun, everything was growing like anything.
The moon, we'll say it again, just so people don't get the wrong end of the stick. The moon, as an entity, was never a son. Come to that, it was never a daughter either. How do Andy?
Hello, Alan. I'd like to talk about Southport Pier, but before I do, can I just say about Ireland? I think there'll be a united Ireland in the next 50 years.
Right.
That's what I think. I just think with all the politics and everything, people don't want violence anymore, they just want settleness, as we all do. But I think there'll be a united Ireland.
Quite a lot of people within the island of Ireland are prepared to engage in violence to meet their political end.
I don't think there's many as want peace. Peace is the way forward, but there you go.
Well, you may well not think there are many, but I can tell you that even to this day, in Belfast, there is a great big wall called the Peace Wall, and they built it, and then they found it wasn't high enough because people threw bombs over it, so they built it higher, and people still threw bombs over it, so they built it higher still, and there was a gate in that wall, and that gate is still locked at midnight every night to stop terrorists going in either direction. So it's not gone away.
No, but I think there'll be a united Ireland in the next 50 years.
Well, you may well be correct, and many people will hope.
I don't think I am, but that's my observation.
You don't think... You said, I think there will be, and then I said you might be correct, and you said, I don't think I am. Which is it? Do you think there will be, or do you not think there will be?
I think there will be. I'll be united Ireland. So go back to what it is.
It'll go back to what it is or what it was?
What it was, sorry.
It's okay. Right, so we've established now that you believe that within 50 years the island of Ireland will be one entity. Yeah?
That's what I believe, yeah, but I won't be around to see it. But there you go.
Well, indeed.
Anyway, can I talk about Southport Pier, please?
Please do.
It's been closed. It's been closed now for all this year, and there's no prospects of it opening again. Nice. And it's a big tourist attraction for Southport. And all the locals it is, and for a lot of people come to see the seaside. But it's been closed, and it
they come to see the seaside at Southport. You can't see the bloody sea from Southport.
Some days you can. It goes out quite... Ken Dodd made a joke about that, didn't he?
There are very few things that Ken Dodd didn't make a joke about, but, I mean, with all due respect to Southport, you say it's a tourist attraction. Is it?
Yeah, well, all right.
Really?
Yeah. So, well, if I expand and say that people like to come to the seaside, not just Southport, Blackpool, Morecambe, Brighton, they all go when the sun's out. You see it all on the telly.
You can't defend the basic holiday arrangements of Southport by saying, because they go to Blackpool, they must go to Southport.
Well, my broader point is, people like to come to the seaside for a holiday or a day trip, the weekend down. Southport, and also the other point is, Southport Pier is closed at the moment for no significant reason.
Well, perhaps the significant reason is that nobody used it.
Of course they did.
I'm just saying, perhaps.
No, they did. They walked the pier. They love walking up and down the pier. It's the longest pier. It's the second longest pier in the country. It's a Grade 2 listed building, and apparently it's been condemned for some reason, and we don't know why, because the council won't let us in. To their knowledge, why it's closed, and there's people in.
Which are we talking about? Is it closed, or is it condemned, or is it both?
Well, we don't know, because Sefton Council won't.
Well, you just said it's condemned. Are you now saying that you don't know whether it's condemned or not?
Well, my opinion is it's closed at the moment, but Sefton Council won't tell us.
You don't need an opinion to say whether it's open or closed. We can go along and have a look, and I suspect you've done that. But then you said it's condemned, and I'm trying to find out where you've got that from. I'm not saying it's not right. I'm just trying to get you to stand it up a little bit rather than just say it.
All right. All I know is the pier at the moment is closed at Southport, and people come to Southport to walk the pier. It's a major tourist attraction. It's been closed now all this year, and there's no prospects of it opening. The council have got an estimate of 13 million quid to fix it up.
Right.
And they're not doing anything about it at the moment, but they're not giving the details why they're not doing anything about it.
Well, possibly because they haven't got 13 million quid, do you think?
Possibly, but they could have. It was only in the year 2000 that they got a lottery grant to fix it all up. I know she's a big old thing, and there's a lot of looking after the pier, but people love it. It's a Grade 2 listed building. And if the council will just, say what they're going to do or not going to do, people could work with it. And that expands me thing. I think people like coming to the seaside in general, don't they? After all these times, a couple of days away.
People do like to go to the seaside, but the seaside exists around the whole coast of the United Kingdom.
Exactly. But you look on the news when the weather was nice.
So it's very easy to go to the seaside without going to Southport. I'm not advocating that that's what people do, but it's very easy to do so. And I can tell you the reasons it's closed. You say that Southport Council won't tell anybody, or Sefton Council, but the reason it's closed is because there are concerns about the planks of the wood used in the walkway. In other words, they're concerned that you might fall through and end up breaking your leg on the sand, or twice a year landing in the sea.
Right, and have they said what the proposal to do to mend it? It's their responsibility.
It is their responsibility, right? If the problem is that the planks are unreliable, then I suspect the thing to mend it is to replace the planks. But that's just a guess.
So that's not going to cost 13 million quid.
Is it not?
I don't think so, because that's just. I think that's just the bottom line. What you're saying, there's more to it than that. What's going on?
Okay, well, you clearly, your guesses, which also included it being condemned, so far have been most reliable, or as other people might call them, drivel. But do have a good night. 0800 218 2255. How do Robert?
Hi, Alan.
Hi.
Hi, it's a pleasure to speak to you. I'm ringing about the BBC licence fee.
Okay.
I used to listen to Radio 2 quite regularly, and also Radio 1. Now, people used to call in all the time, and they'd be ringing from Lanzarote, Spain, expats basically, and they'd say, we love your show, you know, Gary Davis or whoever. Well, what right have they to be listening to the BBC when they don't live here? Because they're not liable for a licence fee, am I right?
We don't have any process, I say we, the nation doesn't have any process by which we can get the money off people listening abroad. However, there is a process, I'm not sure how it works, but there is a process if you listen on BBC Sounds, which is how most people would elsewhere in the world access. Yeah. I think you have to say that you are a licence fee payer, but of course I'm not sure how easy that is to check, if indeed it is at all.
So there's no way of knowing whether people listening abroad are actually paying to fund the BBC?
I think it is very, very unlikely that any of them are.
Well, I can't believe that they're given airtime.
Well,
I know that's not your remit to say, but, you know, every time I hear... Go on.
I get phone calls on this programme from people abroad, and it's part of the... I use the term in its loosest sense. It's part of the entertainment value of the programme. Whether they've paid their licence fee or not is, in entertainment terms, irrelevant. In the same way that you might not have paid yours. I'm not asking, but you might not have paid yours. But we still put you on. You don't. When you ring, we don't say, "Have you paid your licence fee? Can you show me?"
No, obviously, yeah, fair enough. But I'm just. It just grates on me when I hear people ringing from abroad saying, we listen to, you know, whatever show on BBC Radio, and I just think, well, you know, if you think the BBC in Britain's that good, why are you abroad?
Well, I suspect not many people would change their desire to live abroad on the basis of, but if we go and live in Spain, love, we won't be able to listen to the Beeb. I think people...
I think they shouldn't be allowed to.
Well, I don't know how you would stop them.
Well, exactly, and that was my question to you. Is there any way of stopping, and you've answered it, so...
Well, there's no way of stopping them listening that I'm aware of, other than what I just outlined in relation to BBC Sounds, but I don't think there's any desire to stop them taking part in programmes, because, as I say, that's part of the entertainment value of the broadcast.
Okay. Right. Thank you very much, Alan.
All right, mate. Have a good night. 0800 218 2255 to join us. How do Shafiq?
I'm okay, Alan. You fed up, I'm fed up too.
Shafiq, you can have a minute.
How many general Mr. Russia President Putin shaken with his general in Russia? How many general military force in Russia? They knew one general, army general in my mother country. His name is M.A.G. Usmani. He is older than our Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. Queen Mother knew him. He passed away Royal London Hospital in 1984. If army general respect him, they must be stop the war. They all rifle in the soil and go to Saudi Arabia, pray to God and messenger respect. All people respect the all God messenger. Peace be with you, Mr. Putin. Stop the war. It is good for our human being and all peace in United Security Council. All peace. Not is a on troublemaker in the UN Security Council. Then why war? Why each other hating? Why each other fight? Why? Why not make one say?
That's your minute. Good night. 0800 218 2255 if you want to join us. How do Tom?
Hi there, Alan.
Hi.
Hi there. I've never called before, a little bit nervous, but nice to chat to you. It's just in reference actually to something you said at the very beginning of the show. I've just got back from a friend's house and I've been listening to it on catch-up. So I'm a little bit behind, and I don't know if anybody else has called in about this in the meantime, but you mentioned about vegetarian food and how you don't understand why people would be vegetarian and want to eat sort of fake meat. I'm intrigued. I'm just intrigued because I've been a vegetarian for many years,
Well, I didn't say... I'm not talking about vegetarian, I'm talking about vegans, but go on.
Oh, okay, so vegans or... Yeah, I've been vegetarian, I'm not vegan, but I've been vegetarian since about the age of 8 or 9. And my main reason for not eating meat is that I don't like the idea of animals suffering, and I actually quite like the taste of meat, always have done. So, really, I've always, I always used to like a bit of bacon or a burger, but then I became like, I didn't like what was happening with the animals, really, the way they're treated, and, I don't want anything to die for the sake of me, really, if I can avoid it. So, is that something that you considered, or is that, what would be your sort of argument against that, really?
I don't have any arguments against it. I think people are entitled to make their own dietary choices.
Because what bit is it that you didn't understand about why?
What I didn't understand was because we had Veganuary, where it encouraged people to become vegan. Yeah, and it's a perfectly laudable idea. But we then got all this stuff in the shops, like vegan cheese. Well, first of all, that's oxymoronic. You can't have vegan cheese. What you have is some chemical stink shoved into a yellow-looking block, which tastes utterly disgusting. And the same
not a fan,
applies.
I take it.
Exactly so. Exactly so. Without a shadow of a doubt, I'm not a fan of that stuff. I think if you're going to be a vegan, then be a bloody vegan. And don't sit there thinking, do you know what? I think I'm going to have a burger made out of some disgusting paste that's been bashed into a shape to look like a corpse of a creature. I mean, do the bloody thing right, or don't do it at all.
But if somebody likes the taste of that product, but doesn't like how...
They didn't go vegan because they liked the taste of it. They went vegan because of the reason you just gave, and that is they don't want animals to contribute to their lifestyle, either in the case of... I mean, we had a vegan couple staying with us just recently, and they wouldn't even have honey. And that's perfectly fine. I've got no problem with that. They wouldn't have honey. But even when I said to them, well, should I get you some vegan foods in? No. Why would you get us vegan food? We will eat proper food, and we get a lot of pulses, which we eat quite a lot of anyway. And I just I tried vegan bacon. It's not bacon. And why would you do it? I don't like the animals dying, but I do like them to look like... I like my food to look like an animal's died, because I'm a hypocritical pillock.
Well, to be honest, I think the most hypocritical thing, and this is an argument I have a lot with people, is like I won't eat animals, but I find it very strange that people are selective about what animals they will eat.
Oh yeah, that's a good one, isn't it?
Because I think, I always think, I don't get it. I always say to people, well, I'd rather eat a dog than a cow, and I don't like dogs, and they look at me like I'm, Satan or something. And I think, well, I genuinely would. I don't like dogs. I quite like cows. So if I had to have a choice, I would choose the dog. And I find it very strange that people say, I would eat something, I would eat a pigeon, but I wouldn't eat a squirrel, or I would eat, a cow, but I won't eat a dog. I find that very baffling. That's the bit I cannot understand with people's hypocrisy, with meat eaters' hypocrisy, really. I think you're either all in or you're all out.
Well, I don't have any problem with people who choose to eat various different corpses. I don't have a problem with that at all. But I do have a problem with them pretending that they're somehow better than others, because A, they don't eat any corpses, B, they only eat some, and C, they pick and choose. I mean, the problem I have with vegetarian people is that they often are very, very... I'm a vegetarian because I don't like animals supplying things for my... and then they wear leather shoes, or they eat... Well, we're back with cheese. They eat cheese, which of course comes from the milk. Where do they get the milk from? Well, they take it off the mother and they give it to us instead of the mother's child. So
and I do eat cheese. I am a vegetarian. I do eat cheese, you see. Right. And I suppose you're right.
Because you're a vegetarian, not a vegan. If I have any respect at all, it's for vegans, but not for the cretinous ones that eat all this slop that they form into stuff and then put red dye in it to make it look like a slice of corpse. I mean, if you're going to be vegan, strange. Be a bloody vegan.
So would you, going back to my question before, is there animals you wouldn't eat? Would you eat all sorts of animals if offered them? If you went to a restaurant and...
Well, if I went to a restaurant, probably not, because I'm not particularly into experimentation, as it were. Just like if they said, well, we've got this cheese, but it's not made out of milk. And I'd say, well, what is it made out of? And they'd say, well, there's this chemical, you shove it. I went to a vegan restaurant and they served what was called cashew nut butter. Clearly it wasn't butter.
Sounds interesting.
But it was gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. But that's because it was cashew nuts and I liked them. It wasn't butter at all, but you could spread it on bread if you... so it's that kind of thing. So if people want to eat squirrel, let them get on with it. If somebody offered me squirrel, I'd be happy to eat it if I felt like. I don't have any rules of what creature I won't eat. And I'd draw the line at humans unless I was really, really, really close to dying of hunger.
Yeah, I understand that fully. Yeah, it's just an interesting one, just because I hear it a lot from people that say what you said at the beginning of the show, why would you want to eat, like, for instance, there's a fast food chain, I won't name it, obviously, but who have produced they call it a plant-based burger, and it to me, it tastes really good, because I've always quite liked their burgers before I was vegetarian. They produced this one, and I think, well, great, this is great, I can enjoy that. And my friends say to me, well, why would you want that? If it tastes just like meat, why would you want that? And it's always baffled me why people think that way, really. And I said, well, because there's no animals gone into it. That's fine by me. So yeah, it's just an interesting one, really. I just sort of wanted to chat about it.
The reason for my comment was that now that should we say that poverty is kicking in, people who previously were buying these vegan options, the pretend meat products, are moving away from them because they were very, very expensive to begin with.
I think that's the matter,
and even more so now. And the reason they were expensive is because the retailers and the manufacturers knew that they could rely on the stupidity of the human.
Well, it's a niche, isn't it, as well? And you create a niche, and you've got it. But I think also a couple of news articles I read about it said that people are moving on to cheaper alternatives of this sort of vegetarian and vegan food, which I think is perhaps not being picked up in some of the news articles about it. That they are still buying stuff, but they're perhaps buying budget versions of that stuff.
Yeah, won't fool them. The budget version will be even worse. But the truth is,
better. You never know.
Well, that's about taste, I guess, or lack of it, in my idea.
Yeah.
But you can be a vegan and indeed a vegetarian without having to eat substitute stuff.
You say that, but I find it quite difficult, actually. If, for instance, I'm having a Sunday dinner that I quite like, it feels incomplete when you've just got vegetables to me. I mean, I went out for it.
But that's because... but that's the old... That's the old vegetarian's complaint, in that the meat-eating society, if we go to dinner, I say I'm a vegetarian, so, OK, in that case, here's your meal. We've just taken the meat off it.
Yes, but you should have something like I went out for a carvery place this week and had the vegetarian option, and it was a sort of replica meat type thing, replica chicken breast, and it did make the meal feel complete to me in a way that it wouldn't have done if it had just had vegetables. So there is market for that. There is I think there's a lot of there's a lot of reasoning behind it, but it's interesting to talk about it anyway.
Well, keep up the good work, as they say, and work towards veganism.
It's what, sorry?
Work towards veganism. Do the job right, man.
Oh, I don't think I could give up cheese.
I couldn't give up ice cream. I think I would rather die.
You mentioned vegan ice cream the other week. And
that was bloody awful and all. I mean,
I've heard that. I mean,
vegan ice cream, don't bother. Do the other thing. What's that thing that they make with ice? I've forgotten now, but,
frozen yogurt?
No. Oh, God. Tofu. Please.
Not a fan of that,
no. No, sorbet. Thank you, Jane.
Sorbet.
Just told me sorbet. I mean, have a sorbet.
That's all right,
it's all right. Not my cup of tea, if you'll pardon the change of drinks, but, fair enough. Such is life. Anyway, good to talk to you, Tom. It's my pleasure. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, that's good. You can talk about absolutely anything right through until 1 o'clock. It's now just after 11:15, so there's a bit of time if you fancy it. So if you want something to say. The armed forces are short of personnel, apparently, so they're thinking of widening the recruitment criteria. which is a bit odd when they've just made a load of people redundant. But never mind, there it is. They're widening the recruitment criteria. And they're lifting the top age. So the higher, the older you are, or I think the age at the moment is 30 or something. Well, they're going to say, OK, you can do it after 30. And I think, I really enjoyed my time as a squaddy. And I'm about to leave my job sometime this year, so I wonder how far the rules are changing. Because the money's not bad as a squaddy. No, the money's not bad. And you get free clothes. They're not the prettiest, but, I don't wear the prettiest as it is. You get nourishing food, that's for certain. And as well as all that, you get fit. So I say, General, send me a form now. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, you can. Meanwhile, we'll listen to Jackie Wilson as he gets higher and higher. I don't think he means he's stoned. I think he's just happy, joyous. I'm higher, I'm higher, I'm higher. Oh, 800 218 2255 to join us. We're here till 1 o'clock. You've got a bit of time yet, so that's good, is it not? How do Sam?
Hi, Alan. I just had a litre of orange juice. So I might sound a bit weird because I don't sound my normal self. But it might be the orange juice. Can I just put this background noise down? I'll be 1 second. I don't know what's saying. Yeah, sorry. Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah. So I've had a litre of orange juice, so I might sound a bit weird.
Nobody cares.
Okay, so, you were talking about you said it's easy to be vegetarian or veganism, be a vegan.
I don't think I said it was easy.
You said, what did you say? You said it wasn't hard.
I didn't say it wasn't hard, I don't think. It's tricky, but it's perfectly achievable.
Yeah, it is achievable. Actually, it is easily achievable, but then not a balanced diet is not easily achievable if you're a vegetarian. Easily, because
it is if you understand what a balanced diet is. If your version of a balanced diet is meat and 2 veg, it's going to be tricky. But that's not a balanced diet, or that's one balanced diet. There are many, many other versions of the same objective, a balanced diet.
If you have a busy lifestyle and you do about an hour of exercise and you work, and if you're flexitarian, you need to be you need to have a planner because you can't just, you need to, I don't know, I mean, it's just far more easier if you're not vegetarian.
Certainly it's easier if you just are able to pick up a takeaway menu and say, send me this, and it's got meat or meat product in it, like milk or what have you. Yes, that's very, very easy, but that doesn't mean the alternative is hard. And who says life should be easy anyway?
Yeah, but then you can. It's not about being easy. Yeah, it's not about easy. But then you can go off track. You can. So basically, you need creatine, and that's in red meat. And then if you are vegetarian, you actually need to be taking creatine somehow. And I've got a powder which I take. But then if you don't have the powder,
what do you mean you've got a powder that you take? What do you mean a powder? A powder of what?
Creatine. So if you're a vegetarian, the thing you miss the most, from my perspective, is creatine. You can get protein from beans. It's relatively easy to get protein, but it's not as easy to get creatine. And
where would one normally source creatine, whatever that word is you're saying?
From red meat.
Right.
Yeah. So I have the powder. I just put 2 scoops in water. I'm flexitarian because it's easier. So I just have some creatine.
Well, everybody's flexitarian that chooses to vary their diet, including meat, fish, and other corpses.
Okay. So I agree. Everybody is flexitarian, but I agree.
Everybody who includes corpses is flexitarian. The vegan isn't flexitarian. They don't include.
Do they agree that we shouldn't kill animals? Do they all agree to that?
I don't know what they all agree. I can't speak for everybody. I have enough trouble speaking for me.
Yeah. So it's about the principle of not killing animals. Then, so I think it's about. For me, I'm flexitarian because it's more
you're happy. So you're happy for them to be killed?
No. I think in an ideal world, I'm not really too fussed.
No. Sam, I rarely care what people think about living in the ideal world. I care about, well, you say you're a flexitarian. That means you do eat meat. Am I correct, yes or no?
Yeah.
Then you're happy for animals to be killed so that you can eat their bodies?
No, I think that's wrong to kill animals.
Well, you can't. Do you want to eat them alive? Because they'll die then anyway.
Yeah, but the thing is, I don't spend my days thinking about it. But
that's a good idea. I mean, that's brilliant. Don't think about it. That is the way forward. Just don't think about it. It's wrong, out in your eyes, and millions and millions of times a day it happens in this country alone. But if you just don't think about it, it'll be fine. Yeah, that's fine. No problem at all, Sam.
It's been like that for centuries.
Well, Sam, we're not discussing... Sam, you haven't been alive for centuries. I'm talking with you now. You say you don't agree with the killing of animals for food, but you eat dead animals.
Yeah, but I'm not... So, yeah. I eat... I'm a flexitarian, so I don't...
So you still eat dead animals?
Sam,
you are an eater of corpses. You may well sometimes have a bit of lettuce, but you are an eater of corpses.
Yeah. Can I
stop trying to deny it by calling yourself something exotic like a flexitarian. Why not just call yourself a barefaced liar? Because you do eat dead bodies, and then deny it with this peculiar Ponzi title.
I'm all with stop killing animals. I'm all with that. Like if
No,
you do
you're
the
not.
vote, I'll vote.
No, you're
I'll
not.
vote tomorrow.
No, Sam, you are not. You can't say I am against the killing of animals when you buy their bodies to eat.
I'm
How do you think they get
very rarely eat.
It doesn't matter whether you eat it rarely or not. You only have to kill one person to go to jail. That makes you a murderer. Well, it's not a person, it's an animal, but it's still dead.
Okay. Can I very quickly talk about something else? It's far more important.
Will you be as stupid when you do so?
No. I'll try.
Well, I'll be the judge, but let's see.
Okay, so the voyeur, because last week I talked about the voyeur going out of...
I don't care
one of your
about...
callers talked about it, and then
I don't care about last week. We're here now.
Yeah, okay, so the voyeur, when the voyeur went past, I think it was... What's this big planet called? It was called...
Sam, it's called the Voyager, and it went past Jupiter and Uranus.
Okay, so when you went past Jupiter, as he was going past Jupiter, Jupiter is very big. An asteroid was in a collision course, so an asteroid was heading towards Earth, and then as the spacecraft was going past that planet, it captured the asteroid hitting that planet, and then he missed us. He missed Earth, because if that planet wasn't there, that asteroid would have hit Earth and he would have killed all of us. But the Voyager managed to capture that image of the asteroid hitting that planet, whichever planet. I forgot what it was, the name of that planet.
Hang on. I'm a bit confused now. So what you're saying is the spaceship photographed a lump of rock hitting a planet.
Yeah, and if that planet wasn't there...
Well, if that planet wasn't there, I mean, for crying out loud, if the planet wasn't there, that rock might not have been there. We might not have been here. That's a bloody stupid thing to say. You said you weren't going to be stupid, and yet you managed it again. It must be in your nature. How do Emily?
Hello, I'm outside and it's very windy. It's not bothering the reception, is it?
Not yet.
Okay, that's good. So I want to talk about, first of all, I'd never even heard flexitarian.
Oh, it's still around.
Since I was 15, I've been majority vegetarian. But I don't oppose people, if they enjoy beef or lamb or stuff. I don't oppose that. There's people out there now who are extremists, and they're called vegans. Now, the vegan lifestyle is never going to catch on. I've tried, out of curiosity, I tried the vegan ice cream. Absolutely grotesque. I tried a piece of vegan cheese. Absolutely disgusting. I tried vegan steak. I had one mouthful. I didn't even chew it all. It was absolutely horrendous, and I spat it out. And I couldn't even tell you what it tasted of. It was indescribable, but it's disgusting. It's not going to catch on. Like you, I love ice cream. Like you, I only eat vanilla, and I do love my cheese. And vegans are a minority of minorities. Yeah? And yet, they're in your face. They're interviewed on news programmes. They're interviewed on the radio. There's documentaries on them. Why? They're only a tiny minority, and I've never seen a healthy vegan. I had a conversation last week with my GP, and I've got to go and have injections of vitamin B12. This is because I'm 80% vegetarian, so I'm very low in B12. And I said, why? And she said, it's because of that. I said, I wonder what B12 is in vegans. Well, she said they take supplements, so there you go. So they're eating absolute garbage that tastes grotesque.
Well, hang on.
And they're having to take supplements
most vegans aren't eating that crap that you refer to. That
What
is
are they
for
eating
the...
then?
Well, they have a whole different diet, vegans. They have to plan their diet in a different way, and the proper vegan, not the one that's been lulled into it by publicity, but the one that is against the eating and using of animal products, they structure their diet in a different way. I mean, as I say, we had a couple of vegans staying with us, not for the first time, but staying with us just recently.
What did they, out of curiosity, those ones staying with you, what would they eat?
Well, during the time they were here, they're only here for 4 days, so that's 4 main meals. And we just had meals in that where we didn't use butter, we didn't use cream, milk, anything like that. We ate pulses, vegetables, obviously, pulses, and things like that. Lots of green stuff. All good, healthy food, to be honest. And I rather enjoyed it.
So there's two. There's those. What would we call them? Would we call them proper vegans, as opposed to these other ones who are creating grotesque things as pretend meat?
If they, I'm again the idea of the pretend meat concept, but if it is a process by which a person can get from being an omnivore, eating meat as part of their diet, and remove that meat, and then slowly but surely become someone that doesn't eat meat at all, or any other flesh at all, then that is a process that is to be, if you like, applauded.
Yeah,
because that is what they believe. And if those disgusting foods, and I do agree with you, if those disgusting foods allow them to make the journey, then good, all well and good luck to them. I just think it's disgusting stuff.
Yeah, I know, and it's plant-based, isn't it, would you say? That's the other one.
Well, if it's not meat-based, plant-based is just a way that the marketing industry has said you can eat non-meat products. We've got plant-based burgers and the like. Which
don't even. I tried one of them. Awful. There's restaurants. There's a few restaurants now which are vegan, and I actually went online looking at their menu, and there's some incredibly bizarre concoctions to make things look like meat. Like there's a steak that's made out of cauliflower.
Well, I've been to a couple of vegan restaurants, and none of the meals I was presented with looked like meat, although I did once have a cauliflower steak, and quite frankly, if you've never tried it, don't knock it. It's brilliant. Now, they cooked it.
You see, the bit that I tried
absolutely
kind
gorgeous.
of frightened me to try anything else.
Oh, well, you've missed out. I mean,
earlier in the programme, you were talking about vegan cheese.
Disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, I think your analogy there, that it basically it smells like rotting flesh, is correct. But they're still pushing this, and I don't know why, because I don't think it's going to take off somehow.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? Because people are not going to eat these disgusting things.
Well, yes, they are. There are people who will eat. I mean, these lads that were staying with us, they ate vegan cheese. I don't like it, but they do.
Well, we can let them off with the cheese, but they weren't eating like these disgusting steaks.
Well, they didn't eat disgusting steaks because they perceive that as being almost a cop-out. But as I say, one of the things we fed them was I'm using the wrong term really, but a cauliflower steak, and it is delicious. Now, in their case,
I'll try that one then.
Well, please do. In their case, because it was them, you basically fry it like a steak. I don't think grilling it works. I've never tried, and we served it having cooked it in oil because they're vegan. But when I cook it for us, I cook it in butter because I'm not.
Because that's the thing. I mean, there's certain things, you know, that I think most people wouldn't want to give up. Butter, cheese.
Well, you're right.
I mean,
most
I love
people
Wensleydale. You know, I mean, imagine
most people wouldn't, but nobody has to.
Telling me to give up ice cream and Wensleydale, you're going to have a problem.
Yeah, indeed.
You know
And the same for me.
Yeah, imagine if they banned ice cream and they said you're going to have vegan ice cream.
They do have vegan. Do you know you can get a vegan? You know those magnums, the sort of chalk ice on a stick.
Yeah.
You can get a vegan magnum.
Well, I tried a bit of the vegan ice cream and it was absolutely mortifyingly grotesque.
Yeah, I'm
I
not
think
keen.
a good question you posed earlier was if they're so opposed to meat and things that look like, you know, things that are meat, why are they wanting to eat things that aren't meat but look like meat? Well, I mean, what is that all about?
Well, again, I agree with you. If somebody wants to be a vegan, then they should just get on with it. But it is a free world. And if the transition, if one is an omnivore, eating both meat and vegetables and the like, pulses, and if one wants to move away from that diet, then to do it in one fell swoop, being a vegan requires a much more involvement in your meal planning than straightforward, what should we have tonight? Sausage and mash,
Yeah, you see, I wouldn't have the patience for
that's
that. If I'm hungry and I want something to eat, I want to eat it. I don't want to sit there for like 3 hours planning on what I want to eat.
But those people who do want to try to move away from eating animal corpses, they may well find the presentation on the plate being something that is more appealing to them than, you know, just if all they can think of is, you know, like that chap who was on saying, I love my Sunday lunch, and he said, I can't imagine my Sunday lunch without a piece of meat on it. Now, if somebody is in that position whilst trying to journey towards vegetarianism and onwards to veganism, they can have a meat substitute and feel quite comfortable with that.
Yeah,
then that is a way for them to make that journey towards being a vegan or a vegetarian.
Yeah. What's the one where they don't eat meat but they eat fish? Is that pescatarian?
Well, they call those people call themselves a pescatarian, and I've never quite
That's right.
understood
It was something like that. I do like a bit of fish. As I say, 80% I don't eat meat, but there are certain, you know, it's probably a famous one, but I do like bacon. I've never liked smoky bacon, but I do like a nice piece of bacon. Now, I know various, I won't mention them, you know, firms, you know, food firms, create vegetarian bacon. And I have actually tried one of those vegetarian bacons, and it was very nice. I had a nice bacon sandwich with it, so that wasn't too bad. But then there's other ones, and you know, it just it's like vegetarian lamb. No, I mean, if you want to eat lamb, but you know that does not. It's a weird one. I understand what you were saying before, because if you decide you don't want to eat meat anymore, but you've got vegetarian lamb in front of you, that looks like a piece of lamb, and then that's going to remind you. So, yeah, but I mean, I don't understand. Not the vegans that you were talking about that were staying with you. I think I could probably handle them. It's these, what I would describe as extreme ones, where, you know, they protest, you know, they're in your face, they want meat banned, and all this sort of thing. It's you know, it's taking choice away. You know what I mean? It's like trying to force people. It's
hang
like
on a minute. Hang on. The problem here is that they too have a choice, and they're entitled to choose to protest. They're entitled to choose to try to persuade you.
To protest, but they don't have a right to try and dictate to everybody else that you can't eat what you want to eat.
They're not dictating if they're saying this is what you should do any more than we are dictating when we say no, we won't. A free world means people...
I suppose so, but I really
A free world, Emily, means that people will do things that those of us who disagree with them would prefer they didn't do. But that's life.
Yeah.
Well, good to hear from you, Emily. Have a good night. I'll do Ed.
Hello, Alan. You had a guy on earlier talking about Frankfurt Pier, and he didn't understand what was closing. Well, it's closing because the wooden decking has been badly damaged and it's been closed since last December, and in each case I think it's £30 million before it reopened, and they have set aside I think a budget of about £3 million, but there's a big difference between 13 and 3. They need another 10 million.
Sounds a lot for a load of sleepers, though, doesn't it? That 13 million.
Well, it can't be just the sleepers. There must be some structural damage as well. I think they had a big survey done on it, but I don't know the detail. But there a train that goes across the pier there?
Yeah, I know.
And obviously they can't run that for safety issues if there's a real problem with the pier. I was interested to hear what you're saying about in the sea from Southwood. You're quite right, it's miles out, but at least you could see more of it from the end of the pier. You could see Blackpool Tower as well from there was a nice...
Well, you want to see Blackpool Tower, you get a really good view of it from Blackpool.
Well, absolutely.
And you can go and walk through the sewer that we call the sea.
Isn't it? I was at the beach of Blackpool's full of mud, so it's a nice beach, really. I don't think
it's all right.
It's a lot nicer.
They used to have that plane taking off, didn't they? Do you remember that?
Oh yes, I do.
Years ago,
yeah.
And they used to just have a great chunk of the beach, and this plane came, and a child was injured by the plane. He managed to get under the barrier and run towards it, and he was severely injured by a propeller, and I think it disappeared not long after that, quite understandably. But
it's a nice cycle ride from Southport to Formby. The beach at Formby is lovely, actually.
It is.
Some nice sand dunes,
and it's got the Iron Men as well.
Statues, yeah. The Anthony Gormley statues are a bit rude, but they're very nice, actually.
They're not rude.
Oh, well, okay.
It's art. Art can't be rude, you heathen.
Isn't he the same guy that did the statue in Newcastle, the one with the
yes, he is. Yeah,
wings?
Yeah, Anthony Gormley's calling card, if you like, Sir Anthony Gormley's calling card, artistically, is he predominantly does sculptures of himself. It's his body shape, yeah. In fact, if you go to Manchester Art Gallery, they have in the atrium where the lift is, above the lift, there is a chainmail creature, a chainmail man, if you like, and that also is a Sir Anthony Gormley, and it is Sir Anthony Gormley, as are the ones that they have in London, standing top of multi-storey buildings.
Is that on Mosley Street?
Yeah.
That gallery. Yeah, I think I've been in it once.
Yeah, well, it's very good.
Really. It's on the left-hand side. You go towards the truck stop at St Peter's Square, isn't it? From Piccadilly.
I can't remember which side it's on. I think it's on the right-hand side, but it doesn't matter. My favourite Manchester Art Gallery story was we went with my wife's parents and my wife's niece, who at the time was about 6, and we were going all around the gallery, and like any other child, she ran ahead of us and then came to another gallery. There's a gallery there where all the sort of crockery from the council crockery, you know, and all that, this stuff that they're given by the Queen, a 52-piece tea set and all that. And she came out of the room as we were walking towards it, and she said, "Don't bother going in there, it's all kitchen stuff." A wonderful summary of about £1 million worth of crockery and gold cups and all sorts. Oh, don't bother going into all kitchen stuff.
That lady just talking about vegetarianism as well. Maybe she was talking about. Do you remember Cracker Barrel?
I do.
Because me and my dad used to love that, but you can't buy it anymore. I think it was made by Kraft.
Probably was.
And it used to have the red silver foil around it, but it was very fresh and it had a taste of its own. And I've never found a cheese like that since. Have you? It's delicious, really is.
Well, I mean, if I remember correctly, it was a long time ago, wasn't it? But if I remember correctly,
it wasn't that long ago. I think Tesco stopped selling it, but Sainsbury's used to sell it, but now nobody sells it. And I actually rang Cracker Barrel up because it's an American company, Kraft, but the cheese was actually made in Ireland, and they said they'd had a big court case because there's a company in America also called Cracker Barrel, and they spent 3 years fighting them. Won, fined them all, the other company all this money, got the name, and then did away with cheese. You know, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
Well, you know, large companies are very difficult to comprehend.
But they also brought out a special version of Cracker Barrel at Christmas time, a Shetland version in green foil, and that was fantastic as well.
Well, I think both of them were actually just a kind of cheddar. I don't think there's anything particularly special.
I don't know, there's something about the taste. I loved the taste of that.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are 25 different cheddars, so, you know, it was just another cheddar.
But it was the way you cut it, and it never fell apart like some other cheeses, and it was delicious, and it was lovely on crackers. Presumably that's why it's called Cracker Barrel.
That may well be it. They may well have thought that through. Good on you, Ed. Good to talk to you. Advertising things that no longer exist. Cracker Barrel. Dear God. 0800 218 2255. We've talked about vegetarianism and veganism. We're going to talk with Adam and with Jessica and with you on 0800 218 2255. But right now we're going to listen to Melanie as she sings about vegetarian and veganism. Or not. So we'll try again. Let's play Melanie and I Don't Eat Animals. Fabulous. Melanie and I Don't Eat Animals. And what was that one? White sugar makes you fat. I think all the sugars make you fat, but never mind. 0800 218 2255. How do Adam?
Hello, Alan.
Hi.
How are you doing? All right?
Awfully well, thank you.
Yeah, just talk about vegan stuff. It's like, nothing against it and everything, but I've tried stuff, and some stuff's all right, but I always feel like I need meat after it, though, because it doesn't fill me up.
Really?
Yeah, it just doesn't sit with me, though. It's like, if I go to Mum's, I'll probably get, like, a cottage pie, but it's like the vegan meat and everything. It's like... Yeah, not brilliant, but I'll tolerate it.
Okay. It was the thing that you don't think it fills you up, which is a bit weird.
No, it does it. It's like, I'll have like a non-beef burger from takeaway and everything, and yeah, I'm filled up, but when I've tried plant stuff, it just doesn't fill me up at all. It's like, not brilliant, but it's food, but I'll eat it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, everything. Why do you want to feel filled up?
Well, I just want to feel hungry, though, and everything. It's like I'll visit my mum's, but and everything. It's just like I don't appreciate it, but I respect people's wishes, though. So and everything. So I won't diss it though, because if people want to eat it, it's fair enough, though. I wouldn't take the mick or anything.
But I'm just intrigued at the idea that non-meat foods don't fill you up.
No, I just don't find you do.
You see, if I gave you a large plate of chips and egg, at the end of that, would you think, "Ooh, I need to have a steak because there was no meat in it"? I appreciate that's not vegetarian, vegan.
The chips I'd eat, but not the egg.
You wouldn't eat the egg?
No, don't like them. Make me sick.
Oh, that's fair enough. Right, okay.
Yeah.
So if I gave you beans on toast, would you feel that that you'd think, well, that's no good. I need a couple of slices of bacon if I want to be full.
I could eat beans on toast any day. That's nice.
Right. Well, you do know that's vegan, don't you?
Yeah, it's fair enough though, because it's.
But does it fill you up? Because you said vegan food doesn't fill you up, and there's one that does.
No, it's me and beans on toast. It's more a snack.
Right.
No, so it's not something to eat as the main meal.
Oh, well, there are thousands of people in this country who don't have much choice, but never mind. Thank you very much. I'll do Jessica.
Hello. I'm off vegetarian.
Half vegetarian, go on.
Well, to the roast meat. But listen, I only eat animals that are vegetarian, so I'm getting there.
The old ones are definitely the best. I mean the jokes, not the people.
Oh, I am, dear. But my problem with vegetarians, you come to your house, you go out of your way to make them a nice little vegetarian meal. You go to visit them. Do they go out of their way to grill you a chop?
Well, that is a difficulty, isn't it? But you see, the principle that they're adhering to is they don't want animals to be killed to be eaten. So it's not a fair comparison, is it?
Well, animals, they do eat us.
Well, they do, yes, they do. And, you know, I'm not altogether sure whether we ought to manage our diet on the basis of revenge.
Well, when we go, unless you're cremated, you'll be eaten up by the worms.
You may well be eaten by
I'm
worms.
not eating worms.
No. I've eaten worms, and they're not so good. From my memory, I was a child, and the two things I ate were worms and coal. And it's not done me any harm, has it?
Oh, there's rubbish in the church. Well, come on, 83 November, so there's so much to be said for it.
It's really funny. I used to eat worms, then when I became an adult, I wouldn't eat spaghetti because it looked like worms. It's just crazy. Now I love it, of course, but listen, when I joined the army, I'd never eaten rice other than a rice pudding. No, nobody did. Do you remember Vesta curries and things like that?
I remember them.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't eat rice. That wasn't a staple food, except in rice pudding. You went to somebody's house, they didn't serve you rice. It was weird. And now, of course, rice, spaghetti, we're shoveling it down like there's no tomorrow.
Quinoa.
Oh, no, let's not that far. That is pointless, isn't it?
I think that's just so that certain types of people could sneer when you say quinoa.
Yeah, that might be the only reason for its existence, you're right.
When you're eating spaghetti, all covered in cheese. I lost my poor meatball
when somebody sneezed. It rolled in the garden, then under a bush, and now my poor meatball
is nothing but mush.
Hey,
so when you're eating spaghetti, all covered in cheese, hold on to your meatball and don't ever sneeze.
Right, thank you.
Good night, Alan.
Have a good night, Jessica. 0800 218 2255. Hey, the songs of yesteryear. I had a dream last night about the coming fight. Well, we can't say that. That was the backing music. Charlie Drake, Praise Mr. Custer. And then Dora Bryan did a song just after the Beatles made it. Remember Dora Bryan? She was a northern lass. Ended up owning a hotel in Bournemouth, I think it was, but it doesn't matter. And she was a comic a comedy actress mainly. She did some straight stuff for me, but she did a song about the Beatles. All I Want for Christmas is a Beatle. And there was another one she did. John on a... That was it. Paul on a scooter, Papa in his Hooter, following Ringo Starr. Very strange. Very strange. Quite funny at the time. I think he had a minor hit with it, and why not? 0800 218 2255. Yes, I know I'm talking nonsense. How do Oscar?
Hello, Alan. I'd like to talk about the situation regarding the discovery of bacteria in the water supply on the Bibby barge. The Bibby Stockholm barge, which is docked apparently in Portland Island, I think, on the south coast there.
I think it's Portland. I don't think it's an island, but it's in Portland, I think.
Yeah, I think you'll find it is an island, actually. Okay. It's linked by a bridge to the mainland, and I think Chesil Beach it's a shingle beach which kind of extends across and joins onto the island. But I think technically speaking, it's an island.
Okay.
So anyway, they faffed around, spent a huge amount of money on securing this barge, and have done lots of messing about preparing it, supposedly. But it seems that one of the things that they didn't do prior to getting it, starting to occupy it, was test the water for any contaminants. And so then they started putting these people on, and I think we had two or three dozen or so over a period of a few days. And then for some strange reason, they then decided that, well, I think maybe we should test the water for contaminants, bacteria or whatever, and they've discovered that there is indeed some there. But it strikes me as a bit mysterious, that. I mean, why would they not do that as one of the tests beforehand when they were doing so many other safety checks and preparations and other things that they were doing? And then,
without wanting to challenge any of your points, I think chronologically the tests were taken before the passengers boarded. The results came out after they boarded. I don't think that enhances the government's position at all, but I think that was the chronology of it.
Well, that still wouldn't really make sense, even if that's true. I'm not sure if it is true, but even if we take that as being what happened, then it wouldn't make sense, really, would it, to start putting the people on there until all those test results had come in, unless you were going to be told, for example, that the test results were going to take a year to come through. Something like that is only going to take a day or two under normal circumstances, you would think, at the maximum. In many cases, they should be almost instantaneous, I would have thought. But get the results first, and then when it's all been done and cleared, then you start putting the people on. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense, does it, to say, right, well, after a couple of days, we then start to do the tests, and when we find out that there is a problem, then we have to take all the people off again, even though there are lots of other structures and vessels and buildings and things all around the world which are susceptible to the same thing, because they're largish buildings with large plumbing systems kind of contained within them. Which
the BBC got fined a few years back now, a couple of decades ago. The BBC got fined because their air conditioning reservoir tank on the roof of one of their buildings released some Legionnaires or something like that, and then they got fined quite a lot of money for that.
Right.
So it is something. I nearly said it's not uncommon. That's the wrong way around. But it is something that people who do that kind of work, air conditioning plants and all of that stuff, have to be fully aware of.
Right. So, and all these hotels all around the country, which hotels are apparently something which they are at high risk of this same sort of thing happening. I wonder if they've gone round doing these tests in all these hotels as well, and if they were to find
it's a requirement. I think hotels that are operating and have that kind of heating, cooling system, I think it is a health requirement that they have such a certificate.
Well, I don't know, something about this smells suspicious to me. It doesn't seem like... I mean, can that really be just, it was incompetence, we made a mistake, we should really have perhaps taken an extra couple of days before starting loading the people on there? Or, I mean, if it's incompetence, it's on such a scale that it almost traumatises the mind of those of us who are observing what's going on. And that almost makes me wonder if they're even deliberately trying to bludgeon our brains with this kind of nonsense that they're coming out with. I mean, the people shouldn't really even be here in the first place, the ones that they're talking about putting on these barges, and it's like they come up with these ridiculous ideas. Well, the people are here, we can't stop them coming here, which is not true. They can. And, well, we're going to send them to Rwanda, and, oh dear, no, but, well, we wanted to send them to Rwanda, but unfortunately we weren't able to do that. We got blocked. And so we wanted to put them on a barge, but, oh dear, well, we can't put them on a barge because there's a few bacteria in the water on the barge. So I'm afraid we have to take taxpayers' money.
Regrettably, Legionnaires is fatal.
Well, it can be. I mean, no one's fallen ill as yet.
No, because it's very, very mild, and they were only in there for a very, very short time. We mentioned hotels earlier. It's a legal requirement that hotels and other such institutions test for Legionella at least every quarter, 4 times a year.
And I wonder how they're testing for these things.
Well, it's a test of the water. They take a water sample and they test it in the usual way of testing water. I don't know. I'm not a scientist.
I hope to goodness they're not using the same sort of test that they were using for testing for COVID, with amplification cycles of 45 when the recommended level was like about 20 to 25, so that they were effectively getting false positives in a huge number of cases.
Your hope is wasted on me because, as I said earlier, I have no idea how they do it, but they've been doing it for a decade or so now, and it's a fairly well-established test for efficacy and cost. So I don't know how they do it.
Well, maybe all perfectly 100% reliable and trustworthy, but I personally have my doubts about it. I think there's something fishy going on.
In what respect? In what way do you mean fishy?
I just think that it's all part of a scheme to confuse and confound everybody and exasperate everybody.
So you think the government did it to exasperate everybody?
Well, it just seems to me...
That's what you seem to say. I'm just asking whether that's what you meant.
I don't... I mean, it's one of the explanations that sort of crosses my mind, put it that way. It's just because it's... Otherwise, it's just so difficult to explain how so many things could go so wrong in a way which means that the end result of it is something which horrifies us even more than we were horrified before. And
I have trouble following the logic strand, but I feel sure, Oscar, you'll be able to explain it to me. of a government says we're fed up of these people coming to our shores, we want to discourage them, and one of the ways we're going to discourage them is going to put them all on this dirty great big barge so they won't be living in the lap of luxury, and whilst they're there we will confuse everybody by putting the first few on and then having to drag them off again because of Legionnaire's disease or potential Legionnaire's disease. How does that play into the government's hands in any way, shape or form? Ring me back if you find an answer. How do Arthur?
Evening, sir.
Evening.
Alan. I got the wrong way round. Okay. Slightly off what I usually talk about. Why are our water bills going up by 40% when we have had record rainfall? Spain, for example, have less rainfall and they do not have any hosepipe bans. Why do we have open top reservoirs but they do not? They're either underground or covered over.
I don't know, but covering over a reservoir in the style that we have in this country would be unbelievably expensive. We do have emergency water supplies that are covered up from time to time, but a reservoir, it can be a massive structure, and putting a roof on it would be a bit tricky.
Going back to where I started, well, we have had record rainfall, but Spain don't. They do not have any hosepipe bans, you know what I mean?
Well, I know what you mean. I've no idea whether they have. I have no way of knowing whether they have hosepipe bans in Spain. I've no idea.
I'll leave it at that, sir.
All right then. Okay. I'm just liking the idea of all our reservoirs being full and having a and having a roof. I'm not altogether sure that they do. Never mind. Apparently, I've just looked it up, I didn't know this, Spanish reservoirs are currently at their lowest capacity in 27 years. After an exceptionally dry spring and summer seasons, the drought situation is finally improving in Spain. However, the country's reservoirs are still affected by the consequences of the prolonged dry period and lack of rain. I think a dry period and lack of rain are the same things. But there you are. Their reservoirs are affected by the severe heat wave of this summer. Whether they have a hosepipe ban, I really don't know. I'm not sure what the situation is, to be honest. 0800 218 2255. Mind you, the number of times I have no idea what the situation is. They just grow as they sit here. I learn more and more things about what I don't know, which is not fair. How do Simon?
Hello, Alan.
Hello.
I want to talk about vegetarianism, if I can.
You can.
I agree with the lady who was on before that nobody from who's a vegetarian ever cooks a meaty dish, and I don't mind eating vegetarian, and I've got a friend who lives in South Wales, and I hope he's not able to hear the programme. He can probably hear it on BBC Sounds, but he doesn't tend to. But I spend a whole weekend with him, and it's great, and he cooks for me, and he's brilliant. He does actually eat fish, though, so he's not a vegetarian. He's a, what did he call it, piscatarian or something?
I think that's what they call themselves, yeah.
Yeah. That's the Latin word, I think, for fish, isn't it, Pisces? Or it's certainly the symbol. Anyway, he eats fish, but he tends to do me vegetarian food for 3 or 4 days when I go and see him. But where's the first place I go? And I don't often go to these places. As soon as I drive away, I go to McDonald's, and I hate McDonald's, but I have a meat fetish, and I just have to go.
Right. Why does he cook vegetarian for you when you're there, why doesn't he serve fish, given that he eats it?
Well, that's a good question. He'll eat fish and chips, and he'll go to the chippy, but he never actually cooks fish. Although, when we did I think it was a 3-week cycling holiday in France once, and they stopped him for speeding about 4 minutes after he got off the ferry, and all his money went. So we had to, all he got with him was tuna. So we had about 14 tins of tuna, which he got cheap from some supermarket in Wales. And that's, yes, and I've never ate tuna since because I'm so fed up with it.
That's understandable. I don't eat tuna myself. I don't like it. It's a horrid thing.
Well, I don't mind it with a bit of mayonnaise, but it's not one of my favourites. And since that very day, I've never touched it. It's dreadful.
Fair enough.
Thank you so much, Alan. I really enjoyed the programme. And shall I tell you a funny thing? In Staley Bridge, where I live, guess which is the best sounding local radio station? The one that booms in? Radio Wales, would you please?
Well, there you are. Lucky you. Excellent, Simon. Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. If you wish to join us, you can. We had a little bit of this a few minutes ago, but we'll have all of it now, and including the little bit we had earlier. You'll get used to it eventually. It's either that or a roundabout. I know, weird. 0800 218 2255 to join us. Quick shufty tomorrow morning's newspapers. I mean, this one carries over Saturday and Sunday, the I weekend as it's called. Chinese and Russian hackers break into the UK Foreign Office. Yet another one. Foreign security breach kept secret from the public after attackers accessed emails and private messages. British security sources say the Foreign Office employee downloaded malware hidden in an email, probably accidentally, opening the door to a top Whitehall network. Don't trust computers under any circumstance. The Star on Sunday, the Daily Star on Sunday, space boffins' secret plan to stop an alien invasion. Invite them to play chess. The Grand Masters of the universe. Get it? Of course you do. The Sunday Express, goal. Den girls. Goal, get it? Goal, Den girls. Goal, G-O-A, oh, never mind. Lionesses through to the World Cup semi-final. Well done them. I'm not going anywhere. I can still do the splits, says Angela Rippon. That's something I'd rather not see. And for pity's sake, stop the boats as 6 migrants die at sea. NMP demands a crackdown on the cruel trafficking gangs. Well, of course, if you have a crackdown on the cruel trafficking gangs, what will happen is the trafficking gangs will disappear and be replaced by another lot of trafficking gangs, rather like the crackdown on the drugs gangs. You wipe out the people in charge of the drugs gangs and they're replaced by other people in charge of the drugs gang. It's the way it goes. It's a horrible thing to have to believe, but regrettably it's also the reality. How many more must die before the Tories get a grip, says the Sunday Mirror. 6 migrants dead and 2 missing. Braverman told stop cruel policies. It is interesting that the government's plan, and one doesn't criticise it or support it, it's just the government's plan. The government's plan is to have migrants believe that if they arrive in Britain illegally, they will be sent to Rwanda, or they'll have to live on a barge, and that would deter them from coming and thus take the bread and butter out of the mouths of the criminal gang that assist them in their expensive endeavours. And then you realise the risks they take getting in the small boat across the channel. They risk dying. The downside of what they are attempting, as has been all too frequently demonstrated, is they will drown in a cold and dirty sea, and yet still they come. How does once I get there they'll send me to Rwanda look more frightening than get on that piece of rubber over there and share a life jacket with 5 other people and see how you go? Only a few die. We don't actually know how many die because they fall in the water and are never heard of again. And that doesn't stop them trying. I'm not altogether sure what the government's policies or how the government's policies will frighten them more so. Such is life. Or death. 0800 218 2255. How do Sean?
Evening, Alan. How you doing? Well, actually, it's morning now. It's morning now, and it's on midnight.
Yeah.
So I want to talk to you about something, actually.
Okay.
So basically, I was driving to pick my Chinese up today. Yeah. Then there's like, as I was driving around the corner, there's like loads of these kids in the road, like 10 of these lads in the road, and they got knocked over because they've been stupid and they shouldn't be walking in the road, should they? Because cars come down there and it's stupid.
Well, one shouldn't walk in the road, whether you're a child or a grown-up. It's not a wise policy, for sure.
But they want to get run over. It's on them because they shouldn't be in the road in the first place. So they want to get run over and get killed. Then
they shouldn't be in the road. That is for absolute certain. But let me put it this way. You're driving your car, you turn a corner, and you drive that journey every day, but the next day you turn the corner and somebody's built a 6-foot wall. Do you keep going and crash into it, saying that shouldn't be there?
No, because you can't get through it.
Oh, right, but you can get through a load of kids. You might have to kill a couple, but you can get through.
That's what I'm there. I'd rather kill a couple of them than...
So the obligation, whilst the children shouldn't be there, you are absolutely correct. The obligation on you is to be always to be able to stop, should you be required to.
Yeah.
But you're right, they shouldn't be there.
I can ask you about the government and their policies.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the government think that they do right by our country, but they're not, because
in somebody else's hands. But it's the way they do it. And there's been nothing on the television, there's been nothing on the radio, on the news or anything to give any information to anybody about it. And I feel so...
Yes, there has. Yes, there has.
Has there? No, but I mean about these cards. If you've got to get, to give you time to actually get rid of it. So there's been nothing to the public.
There has also been, more generally, there has been stuff about store gift cards, and the gift card is issued under certain conditions, and those conditions will be available for you to read. And if the card is out of date, then you lose.
Oh, yeah, the money is lost. I can understand that out of date.
If the company reserves the right to only trade in ready money, I suppose that too is a way that you may fall foul. But, check what the rules of the card are, and if the rules of the card say if the company's still trading, you're entitled to your discount or your gift or whatever, then go back and say, I want my goods to the value of the card.
Yes, but I spoke to the people in the shop, and they're brilliant people. I nip in quite a lot for aftershave and goodness knows what, and they was quite adamant that they'd never been told that these cards were not valid anymore. And I thought, well, it's a pity that if they don't know, the public won't know, but they just get away with it. They can just do what they want.
The statement you just said, they'd not been told that the cards weren't valid anymore. Either they were, if they were told that they weren't valid anymore, that would mean you could cash it, you could spend it. So presumably they told you that the cards are no.
But they swipe the card on the till, and it just come up as a red screen, and what they said it's not valid. And
Right.
it was in.
Okay, that's the opposite. That's the opposite of what you just said. But that's fine. It was a slip of the tongue, I'm sure. But I get it now.
Yeah, but it wasn't valid because it was still in date. Because on the back,
indeed, the sentence you should have said was the staff said that they haven't been told that the cards are no longer valid.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah.
Well, I don't know how much mileage there. How much is the card for?
50 quid.
Right. You could write to the headquarters and say, this card was bought. Why have you stolen my money? Why are you refusing to honour it? And see what they say. You could get in touch with your local trading standards or the local trading standards department in respect of Wilko, because that card ought still to be valid. The fact that the company's in receivership is neither here nor there.
Right.
They are still trading. They're not in receivership, they're in administration. My apologies.
Yeah. Well, that's one way of doing it, so I might as well try it. It's worth either a phone call or a stamp.
You need to write to PwC, who's the administrator, and see what they say. But you will be, at best, a very, very low level creditor if the company goes to the wall.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, but it's like being a shareholder, but at the end of the day, it's the way they do it. You know what I mean? It's just under the table. Nobody will bother, and all this.
Well, it's the old story. If anyone ever gives you a gift of a card, spend it the next day.
I know. And the other story you've had on about Legionnaire's disease, I believe how you can actually get it, and if this boat or whatever it is, barge, has been laid up for quite some time, and it had been used on one of these oil fields. It actually can be caused by the water being held in all the pipes, and one of the main things, and this goes for every shower. You can get it from the actual shower head. That when you actually, if it's not been used for quite some while, it actually activates this fungus, and this is how you get it, and it comes out of the spray.
Well, it's not a fungus; it's a bacteria. But go on.
Bacteria, yeah, and it comes out of the shower, and that's one of the things that you can get it by that, and you've got to put boiling water through all the showers and all the pipes.
That isn't enough either. You need to treat it. I mean, it's not for me. I'm not a water engineer, but just putting boiling water through the pipes isn't enough. You need to treat. Whenever there's been standing water, particularly in a facility like a hotel, a house, or what have you, whenever there's been standing water, there is always a risk of the Legionnaire's bacteria existing in that standing water. Usually when it's caused in air conditioning, it's the storage tank that gets it, and then it comes from the storage tank to elsewhere, because in order for the bacteria to get into the standing water, it must be open to the air at some point.
Yes, but when you walk past the building and the air conditioning coolers are on the top, you might get a spray. You might think it's spitting with rain, but what it is, it's the vapour coming out of the actual air conditioning system on top of the building, and it's coming down. Now, if them air conditioning conditions are not cleaned, that's how it can actually come into the air as well.
Yeah, cleaned is the word I'd challenge. It's treated rather than just cleaned. It's treated. First of all, it has to be tested and, if necessary, treated. And buildings of the type you just mentioned need it done every quarter, I think we discovered when we were looking at it. And there are people who have died as a result of the Legionnaire bacteria getting access to their body from the mist, as you described it, the evaporation from heating systems, and there are companies that have been fined for exactly that.
Yeah. So obviously they didn't go through all the system, which they should have done. But
well, the what happened on the barge is they were testing for it, which is the first thing you do. You don't start treating it until you've tested for it, and it didn't, should we say, go according to plan.
Yeah. Anyway, that's probably, it could have been that it may have come through the shower. So, well, I don't. Whether they'll tell us or not, I don't know. But hopefully nobody died, so they can all go back and have a nice life. Yeah, thanks very much.
My pleasure. Have a good one. 0800 218 2255 if you wish to join us. Let's have a quick shufty. 5 infected with Legionnaire's cooling towers. A plastics firm's been fined 50,000 after 5 people became infected. Basildon Hospital has been fined over Legionnaire's disease deaths. That was 350,000. A health board fined 24,000. So it's not uncommon. It's not rare. 0800 218 2255. We're going to go up to David, then to Mike, and to you if you dial that number. But right now, we're going to listen to Frida Payne and a Band of Gold. Frida Payne. Who was that? What's a television documentary about an artist the other day? Frida somebody. Frida Kahlo? We ought to know. 0800 218 2255. How do David?
Hello, Alan.
Hi.
Funny you should play that track because that Band of Gold is a bit of a pain to me. 3 weeks ago, I lost my wedding ring. But there we are. But what I wanted to talk about was watching a podcast by an ex-minister, Rory Stewart. A very, very interesting guy. And I first caught my attention a few years ago when he you may remember this. He became a prison minister, and he pledged that if he couldn't improve the appalling conditions in British prisons, he'd resign. And I think he was moved before that took place. But the podcast, he was asked many questions because he led a very interesting life, and he's had a very interesting father. May have read about him, and I read him up too. But Rory wrote a book that's been praised to the heavens of his visit across, his walking across Afghanistan, and he talked about that at great length. And I'm going to order that book. Just to see what it is. But the things he was asked about, of course, he made some very disparaging remarks about the ex-Prime Minister, his boss, and how, I didn't know at the time, but because he voted one way along with 9 others, he was eventually chucked out of the party, and he talked about that. But what it also reminded me of talking about British politicians and comparing them to the American ex-presidents. One thing I don't understand is about 50% of Americans. I thought really how intelligent they are. I remember Ed Bald, was it a couple of years ago? His documentary went to the south. I don't know if you saw it on BBC Two. He went to the southern states and visited lots of these right-wingers, and that was very interesting. Some very rich people and some people out in the backwoods. But Ed Bald's got to the bottom, I think, of how Americans, the raw Americans, feel, and you could see how they viewed Trump and his sayings. But getting back to Rory, he's the only person I've ever bet on. I put a £5 bet on him when he put up for leader, but of course I lost my money. But there we are. That's Rory Stewart. He certainly deserves a lot of attention. He had to drop out because of COVID. He put up as an independent for the mayor in London. Again, I didn't know about that, and I wasn't aware he'd had to drop out because of COVID. But have you read? You're a big reader of newspapers. Do you read much about Rory?
Well, as much as anybody else does that reads the newspapers. I don't single him out as someone I ought to read more about. He's no longer in office, so he's really not that interesting now. I'm not interested in his podcast and his his life as a minister and as a politician. He provided me with some interest, but beyond that, no.
No, it's oh really? I think if you look across the political scene, as I have done for many years, it's pretty unique. It's genuine, truthful, and that can't
we don't
be
know
said
that, do we? Really, we don't know his genuineness or indeed his honesty.
We don't.
No.
Oh, I think we do. You listen to him, listen to people how they're viewing the majority of people across the whole sphere.
I've never really fallen for the idea that if they don't say I'm a liar, then they're truthful. I mean, the guy is what he is, and there will be some elements of him that are open and honest, but he's a politician, or was a politician, and frequently, as politicians do, as they climb the greasy pole, will go through the lobby in support of a policy they do not agree with.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly with that.
That for me is duplicitous, and I find it impossible without evidence to believe that he never at any point.
Does that mean all the politicians you view the same?
I view politicians with a degree of respect, often because of the job they set out to do. But I also realise that politics is the business of compromise. You will get nowhere without compromise. And
indeed, very true.
And if you don't compromise, then you fail to make progress, and if you do compromise, you're giving up a policy that is important to you, so you are, in a way, being less than honest, because you're behaving in a way that is not the way that you even believe you should behave.
In that respect, looking at our political system and across Europe, across Asia, across the Africa, what we see now, how would you rate us? Are we in the top 10 or
I don't know enough about the other political systems, to be honest. I think our system is a very good one with serious faults. I think the American system is, insofar as I'm aware of it, absolutely dreadful.
Oh, well, I agree with you on that, definitely.
And I think some of the ones in Europe are not to my taste, insofar as I know about them. But we have the system we have. I think it is a very good one, but it is a long, long way from perfect, and actually has some very serious flaws.
Well, thank you for that, Alan. That's very interesting. I agree with a great deal of what you say there. Thank you. Good night.
Good night. How do Mike?
Hello and good morning.
Good morning.
I wonder if as I sat down to talk to you, I thought, well, I better work out whether it is morning or still evening. That your programme this time seems to have flown by. I very much enjoyed listening to it, and I think going back to the beginning, that musical choice. It's very, very 50s, isn't it, to have a song that said, someone broke into my heart and stole a kiss or two. It's great,
I think it was the 50s. Dickie Valentine.
It was indeed.
Yeah, he is the 50s.
Yeah. Now, was that Mr. Eddie Fisher?
No, it was Dickie Valentine.
Oh, yes, of course it was. Yes, of course it was. There might have been a cover version by Eddie Fisher, because I remember when the song was popular, my brothers and I used to make very disparaging noises when it came on the radio. But now that you hear it in later years, you realise the pure romanticism of it. But what struck me is the incredible contrast between that song and what was going on sort of as a harbinger of the future was the big documentary that they've been doing on BBC Two this evening on the Everly Brothers. And when you think about it, there's a massive contrast between that sort of song, the Dickie Valentine that you played, and what what the Everly brothers were offering as a guide to what was going to come in the future. Incredible, isn't it?
I don't really know much about the Everleys, or the Everly brothers as they were for a long time, and then became the Everleys, and then split up, and then got back, and the Lord knows what else. I mean, I don't know about the sentiment. The Dickie Valentine song, "The Finger of Suspicion Points at You," fine. The Everly brothers, "Bye Bye Love," "Hello Sweet Progress," or whatever it is, "Sweet Caress." I haven't quite got
the singing, the just the absolute style of it. I mean, "Bye Bye Love." I mean, that was the first single I ever bought.
All right.
September the 3rd, 1957, I think.
Right.
Anyway, it started me thinking that it might be a profitable question to ask you. If you could alter the year in which you were born, what would you choose to live in this age, or would you like to alter your birth date by a little or a lot?
I don't have those sorts of thoughts, really. We have the life we have. I mean, I've been fortunate in that I've had a very good life. If I was born later, I don't know how that would happen. Would I have different parents? Would I have a different life? What would be the point?
In this ridiculous game, it was just something that I was searching around, casting around for likely topics to talk to you about. I think in the sort of age that we've been privileged to live, it's been very, very fast moving, hasn't it? Particularly in the later years. And yet,
I suppose so. Yes, but I wonder whether the others haven't, the generations before haven't been as fast from their perception. I mean, you can only take the step from where you are, and so the comparative speed is what is there at the time. And parts of my life have moved very slow, and other parts have shot along, and I suspect that's the same for everybody else. Technology seems to have gone forward in leaps and bounds, but as the great scientist said, I'm only ever standing on the shoulders of giants. So we have progressed. I mean, when I was a kid, nobody had a telephone. Very few people had a telephone in their home. If you wanted to make a call, you went to a box and made the call. I suspect the same is for many. But now we carry a phone round with us, unless you, I know, could cuss like me and don't, but most people carry a phone around with them. Men have walked on the moon, which was just a ludicrous concept. It's not that long ago when mankind was saying, come on, don't be ridiculous, you can't fly. We've seen all your contraptions and they ain't going to fly. And suddenly we're travelling to America in 5 hours.
The aspect I'd like to put to you, because I think we've possibly had the best of it in many, many senses. At the sort of time that you and I were contemplating marriage, house prices were, I was going to say commensurate with the amount of money that we were likely to have, but sort of they were far more reasonable now. I mean, if we were now 20 at this age, we may well find it difficult to get on the housing ladder. They're crazy, the prices. Agreed?
Yes, but housing is a human response commodity, for want of a better expression, and of course the number of human beings has risen exponentially. The number of property in this country, the number of properties for them to live in, hasn't kept pace. So supply and demand is in the end the arbiter of most pricing structures.
When it says, as it has recently, the Halifax Building Society and other organisations, house prices have fallen by 2 or 3%. Do you believe this to be just a temporary blip, or are we likely to see this as a continuum?
We haven't got any more houses, so at the moment people can't sell their houses because those they would wish to have them buy them can't afford it. That will change. Now, how quickly it will change, I haven't the faintest idea, but it will change. People will come to terms with the way the amount of money they have. They'll come to terms with how to organise it and adjust their lifestyle to meet it, and they will still desire to live in what we laughingly describe as our own home. Meanwhile, the mortgage companies and the banks will discover that they are trading less and less. So they will decide, okay, we need to lend money to people. It's why we're here. So we need to do something about lending the money to them. So we'll have to find a way of getting access to money more cheaply and lending it. So it is almost inevitable that house prices will rise again, because there are no more than there were a year ago, or very few more.
It really does seem. I suppose it's clear across the board. When I bought the first house in 1972, it cost £3,800. That's just amazing. The amount that particular property, where my son now lives, I think be worth ever such a lot more, many times more than that. It is rather. I mean, just commodities. Do forgive. I mean, even the price of milk, the price of fags, if you must, has gone up terribly.
Yeah, but has it? Prices are a comparative. So yes, you could buy a Ford Escort for, I don't know, £250 many years ago, and now you couldn't, or the equivalent. It cost you many, many thousands. I worked at the CAB in the Siddons Vice Bureau in the 70s, and one of our workers, who was knocking on a bit, came in one day with a big box of cakes. And why? I said, I've just paid off my final mortgage payment. Good God, really? How much was it? £30.
Gosh.
Her mortgage was £30 a month from the day she bought the house. So how much did she pay for the house? £600. You can't get a car for that now. No. You can't get a car for that. Dear God, you take 4 people out for dinner at an expensive restaurant, you won't get any change out of that.
So I think it brings me to the conclusion. I think we've probably had the best of it, Alan, because how's it going to go? How do you see the future in this sense?
Well,
will wages go up and up and up?
Well, they won't go down.
No.
So they will go up. They're not going to stay the same. And people will get more money. That is how it's always been, and it's a vicious circle. Well, not vicious, but it's a circle. They'll get more money, and as a result, prices will move to pay them more money. You know, if your retail emporium has to pay its staff more, then it will have to get the money to pay them from somewhere. Where does a retail emporium get its money from? The schmucks that come in to buy the stuff. So the prices will go up. And so the prices go up, and the people who are buying the stuff will say, I can't afford this, I need more money. So they'll get more money out of their boss. And he's put the prices up again, and then they'll get more money out of their boss. And it'll just go on and on and on. And we've gone away from the day when if you got £5 a year, you were a wealthy person, to if you get £5 an hour, you're being downtrodden.
It really, when you think about it, the way prices have risen, it's quite astronomical, and it's gone at an increasingly fast rate in more recent years, hasn't it?
It seems to have done, but it's hard to compare because A pal of mine, he used to always refer to his wages as beer vouchers. And there was a logic in it, because he said, it doesn't matter how much you earn, it's what can you buy with what you earn. And so he always calculated his wages on the basis of beer vouchers. How many pints of bitter can I get for a week's wages?
Yeah.
And that figure didn't change that much for quite a few years. Whether it's changed recently, I have no idea. And I don't
It's like the Mars bar index, isn't it?
It's exactly the same as the Mars bar index, but it changes because the Mars bar size changes. The pint of beer remains a pint. And that's the standard. And
Now,
that's how it works. It doesn't really matter, mate. You can hear the music, because if you can't, I can. That is what it is exactly. Have a good night. We will be back tonight at 10 o'clock. Till then, I'm sure you'll have an absolutely fascinating time. Apparently, just 4,000 steps a day can cut your chances of an early death. But who wants to die in the morning? Think about it. OK, don't bother. Tune in tomorrow night at 10 o'clock. I've been Beswick. You've been brilliant. Till tonight at 10. Have a good one. Ta-ra.
BBC News at 1 o'clock. This is Tom Dewsbury. The French Coast Guard has called off its search for 2 missing people after a small boat packed with migrants sank in the Channel yesterday morning. 6 people from Afghanistan died when the vessel got into difficulty off the coast of Calais. Our correspondent Lisa Louis is in the city and says aid workers are worried a similar incident will happen again.
Rescue staff told us it was really a grim scene. They were going there to save lives, but the only thing they could do was actually drag dead corpses out of the water. And they were really in shock and hoping that events like that will not happen again. But obviously aid workers have been telling us that a lot of people have been coming to Calais over the past 2 or 3 weeks, and other dramatic events could happen over the coming weeks again.
The Home Office is facing accusations of incompetence from Conservative backbenchers after all 39 migrants being housed on the Bibby Stockholm barge in Dorset had to be removed because bacteria was found in the water supply. The government says those who were on board are being provided with advice and support. The United States government is sending more resources to Hawaii to help search for victims of the wildfires that have killed at least 80 people. Sniffer dogs have been looking for bodies in the town of Lahaina, which has been almost completely destroyed. Juvelin Glenoge, along with 22 others in her family, have been forced to live with a relative. She says she's lost everything in her home.
The house that we stay in, all gone, nothing. So it's so break my heart, because we expecting we go home from work, no more place to stay. Yeah.
More than 250 ancient artefacts have been returned to Italy from the United States after police discovered they were stolen. The art unit of Italy's police force found that the items had been sold to collectors and museums in the 1990s. Some of the paintings, pots and sculptures are up to 3,000 years old. Football, and England will face Australia in the Women's World Cup. The Lionesses will play the hosts in their home stadium after beating Colombia 2-1 to get to the semi-finals. Jessica was watching the match from Doncaster, where she's part of a football team. She says the Lionesses' success will inspire future players.
It's amazing. I'm so happy with the way that they played, and they've been pushing through, and that's all they can do is hold their own and push to the next round. And that's the most important thing. That it's amazing also for young players to look up to these players and know that it's possible to make it there, and that the women's game is just growing every year. So it was awesome.
And the heavyweight boxer Anthony Joshua has won a crucial fight after knocking out his Finnish opponent Robert Helenius in the 7th round. The former world champion has suffered 3 defeats in recent years, but is now on course for a multi-million-dollar match against the American Deontay Wilder. That's the BBC News. It's 3 minutes past 1.